Welcome, brave souls, to a journey through Ohio's shadowed past, where the walls of abandoned asylums whisper tales of sorrow, madness, and the restless spirits that linger. In this video, we'll explore the 25 most haunted asylums across the state, each with its own dark history and eerie legends, from the infamous Athens Lunatic Asylum to the lesser-known but equally chilling sights, prepared to delve into the unknown. Remember, once you enter these forsaken halls, the spirits may follow you home. Athens Lunatic Asylum, commonly known today as the Ridges, is one of Ohio's most infamous haunted locations. Perched on a hill overlooking the town of Athens, this Gothic structure was opened in 1874. Designed under the Kirkbride Planner model, intended to provide patients with a therapeutic environment through light, air, and spacious grounds. The architecture itself is imposing. Long wings stretching from a central administration building. Intricate brickwork, arched windows, and high ceilings that echo the whispers of the past. Though the design aimed to heal, the reality of life inside the asylum often fell far short of its noble intentions. Over the decades, the Ridges became notorious for overcrowding and controversial treatments. Patients were admitted for conditions ranging from severe mental illness to minor emotional struggles, and the facility frequently exceeded capacity. Stories from historical records detail harsh conditions, overworked staff, limited resources, and sometimes brutal treatments that reflected the medical understanding of the era. Electroconvulsive therapy, isolation, and other now outdated practices were common, leaving behind not just scars on the living but, as many believe, lingering spirits of those who suffered within the walls. Today, the Ridges is partially incorporated into Ohio University's campus, housing administrative offices, classrooms, and research facilities. Despite its modern use, the old hospital wings and deserted hallways retain a chilling atmosphere, and numerous reports suggest that the spirits of former patients remain. Visitors and university personnel alike have described eerie experiences. From disembodied footsteps echoing through empty corridors to doors opening and closing without explanation. Some hear whispers in abandoned rooms, while others claim to feel an inexplicable sense of being watched as they walk the long hallways. One of the most persistent phenomena reported at the Ridges is the sound of unseen footsteps. Students and staff walking the halls after hours often hear a slow, deliberate pacing coming from rooms that are officially empty. These footsteps sometimes approach, pause, and then recede, as if the spirit of a former patient is wandering the halls in search of something or someone. Those who have experienced this phenomenon describe a sudden drop in temperature and an overwhelming sensation of presence, as though the building itself is alive and aware. Shadowy figures are another commonly reported occurrence. Witnesses have seen fleeting silhouettes at the end of hallways or in the corner of a room, often vanishing when approached. Some describe the figures as wearing old-fashioned clothing, suggesting they are echoes of patients from decades past. The apparitions are rarely threatening, yet their silent observation can be profoundly unsettling, leaving witnesses with a lingering feeling of unease long after they leave the building. Certain areas of the asylum are especially notorious for paranormal activity. The long wings, where patient rooms were once clustered, are often the sites of strange noises, cold spots, and fleeting apparitions. Stairwells, with their narrow steps and creaking wooden banisters, seem to amplify the feeling of being followed. Former treatment rooms, now empty and stripped of furnishings, often carry a heavy atmosphere, as if the walls themselves remember the suffering that occurred within them. Even the surrounding grounds, once used for patient recreation, have been the site of reported spectral sightings, including ghostly figures wandering under the moonlight. Cemeteries associated with the Ridges also contribute to its haunting reputation. Several small burial grounds for former patients lie nearby, with simple markers or numbered stones identifying those who were laid to rest. Visitors report hearing faint, singing murmurs or crying near these graves, leading some to believe that spirits of the deceased are not confined to the earth but roam freely, particularly on quiet nights when the wind carries their echoes across the hill. Paranormal investigators and ghost enthusiasts have long been drawn to the Ridges, equipment used to detect electromagnetic fluctuations, temperature drops, and anomalous sounds frequently registers unusual readings throughout the old hospital wings. Many claim that these readings correlate with reported experiences of footsteps, whispers, and sightings, reinforcing the belief that the asylum is indeed haunted. Some researchers even suggest that residual energy from decades of suffering and fear has been imprinted upon the building, replaying itself in the form of apparitions and unexplained sounds. Despite or perhaps because of its haunted reputation, the Ridges continues to fascinate visitors. Students often report a mixture of fear and fascination when walking through the older sections of the campus at night. Some say the experiences are brief and fleeting, while others recount moments of intense dread, as though the spirits of the past are asserting their presence. Tours of the asylum often include stories of ghostly sightings and chilling incidents, blending history with the paranormal in a way that captivates the imagination. Athens Lunatic Asylum stands as a monument to both the progress and the dark chapters of mental health care in Ohio. Its grand Gothic architecture hides the pain and suffering that took place within, yet it is precisely this history that may contribute to its reputation as a place where the dead linger. The combination of historical significance, tragic human stories, and inexplicable phenomena has made the Ridges a centerpiece of haunted lore in Ohio, drawing those curious about the supernatural as well as those fascinated by history. Whether it is the sound of invisible footsteps, the glimpse of a shadowy figure, or the sudden drop of temperature in a long-abandoned wing, the spirits of the Ridges seem determined to be remembered. Visitors and staff alike are reminded that while the living may walk its halls today, the echoes of the past are never far behind. The asylum remains a chilling reminder that some places, no matter how modernized or repurposed, carry with them the weight of memory, suffering, and the unquiet dead. Mansfield Reformatory, located in Mansfield, Ohio, is a place where history and haunting intersect in the most chilling ways. Built in 1886, the prison was constructed with imposing Gothic and Romanesque architectural styles, designed to intimidate and control. Its high stone walls, arched doorways, and narrow cell blocks give it a foreboding presence, even today, more than a century after it first opened its gates. Over the years, it housed thousands of inmates, some of whom were notorious criminals, while others were ordinary men caught in the harsh justice system of the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The reformatory became infamous not only for its strict disciplinary measures, but also for the atmosphere of fear and despair that seemed to permeate the walls. The prison gained national attention in modern times when it was used as a filming location for the movie The Shawshank Redemption, which captured the stark, oppressive architecture that has defined its legacy. Yet beyond the cinematic allure, the real Mansfield Reformatory carries stories of suffering and unrest that many claim continue to manifest as paranormal activity. Visitors and employees alike have reported experiences that defy logical explanation, from cold drafts in closed rooms to mysterious footsteps echoing through empty corridors. One of the most frequently reported phenomena is the presence of cold spots. Walk through certain hallways or stand in front of particular cells, and a sudden, chilling drop in temperature is felt, often accompanied by a sense of unease. Some claim these cold spots are not just an environmental anomaly, but a residual energy left behind by the pain and fear of past inmates. Many visitors report feeling watched during these encounters, as if unseen eyes are tracking every movement, heightening the sense of dread in the already somber environment. Unexplained noises are another common occurrence at Mansfield Reformatory. People have reported hearing distant clanging of metal doors, muffled voices, and chains dragging across the floors, often in sections of the prison that have been closed to the public for years. These sounds are not consistent with natural creaking or wind, and their origin cannot be traced, leaving those who hear them with a profound sense of unease. Footsteps following visitors, even when they are alone, are a frequent report, sometimes starting softly and gradually approaching, only to stop suddenly as if an unseen presence has decided to remain hidden. Apparitions are perhaps the most unnerving accounts associated with the reformatory. Shadowy figures are frequently seen moving across hallways or standing silently in the corners of rooms. Witnesses describe figures dressed in early 20th century prison uniforms, walking with deliberate, slow steps, or appearing to peer out of cell doors before vanishing when approached. Some have even reported seeing the ghostly silhouette of a man pacing the floors, carrying an air of sorrow and frustration as if trapped in a loop of eternal punishment. The figures are rarely threatening but are deeply unsettling, reminding visitors of the many lives marked by confinement, fear, and despair within these walls. Certain areas of the prison are particularly active. The long, narrow cell blocks where inmates spent countless hours in isolation are often the epicenter of reported hauntings. The warden's office, solitary confinement cells, and the old execution chamber are also known for unexplained phenomena. Paranormal investigators have used thermal imaging cameras and electromagnetic field detectors in these locations, often recording anomalous readings that coincide with visitor reports of apparitions, cold spots, and strange noises. These findings have reinforced the belief that the Mansfield Reformatory is not only a historical site, but also a hotspot for supernatural activity. Beyond the walls of the reformatory itself, the surrounding grounds have their own eerie tales. Overgrown courtyards, abandoned guard towers, and decaying workshops create an atmosphere of desolation and lingering memory. Many people walking these areas at night have reported seeing figures moving between shadows, hearing distant shouts or laughter, and sensing presences that vanish when approached. The entire campus seems to hold on to its past, a reminder that time does not easily erase the weight of suffering and confinement. The history of Mansfield Reformatory contributes significantly to its haunted reputation. Overcrowding, harsh punishments, and the often brutal treatment of inmates created an environment where fear and despair were constant companions. Many who spent time within its walls suffered from neglect, abuse, or tragic circumstances, and some died while imprisoned. Paranormal enthusiasts suggest that the residual energy from these experiences has been imprinted upon the building, replaying in the form of apparitions, disembodied sounds, and sudden drops in temperature. For those sensitive to these energies, the reformatory becomes more than a historical landmark. It becomes a bridge to the past, where the pain and presence of former inmates are still palpable. Despite its chilling reputation, Mansfield Reformatory draws visitors from around the world. Some come for historical tours, others for the thrill of paranormal investigation, and many are drawn by the legacy of the Shawshank Redemption. For all, the experience is intensified by the palpable sense of history and the unexplainable phenomena that continue to occur. Walking through the halls, one cannot help but feel the weight of the countless lives that pass through its doors and the lingering echoes of their experiences. Mansfield Reformatory remains a testament to the harsh realities of early prison life and a haunting reminder that the past is never truly gone. From unexplained noises and chilling cold spots to shadowy figures roaming the corridors, the reformatory continues to captivate and unsettle all who enter. Its walls carry the stories of thousands of inmates, and for those who dare to explore, it offers a glimpse into a world where history and the supernatural converge, leaving visitors to wonder if some spirits may never find rest. Toledo State Hospital, established in 1838, stands as one of Ohio's earliest state mental health facilities. Over its nearly 150 years of operation, the hospital developed a reputation for overcrowding, questionable treatments, and tragic outcomes. Its long, sprawling complex of brick buildings and towering windows once aimed to provide care for those suffering from mental illness. But the harsh realities of limited resources and evolving medical practices often left patients in grim conditions. Even after its closure in 1979, the hospital's legacy of sorrow and suffering has not faded, and many believe the spirits of those who endured its walls still linger, haunting both the grounds and the remaining structures. Visitors to Toledo State Hospital often speak of an oppressive atmosphere, even decades after the last patient walked its halls. The sheer scale of the campus, with long corridors, high ceilings, and rows of abandoned patient rooms creates an unsettling feeling for anyone who enters. Some describe a heavy, almost tangible weight in the air, as if the building itself remembers every cry, every desperate plea for help, and every moment of anguish experienced within its walls. Those who venture inside after dark report sudden chills, inexplicable cold spots, and the sensation of being watched, even when no one else is present. The most commonly reported phenomena are sounds that defy logical explanation. Echoing cries and moans are frequently heard in the hallways, especially in the old patient wards where overcrowding was once a persistent issue. Some visitors describe hearing whispering voices calling out names, while others report the metallic clanging of doors opening and closing on their own, footsteps on empty floors, the rustle of fabric as though a person has passed by, and the soft shuffle of unseen movement are among the most chilling occurrences. Many claim these noises are not random. Rather, they seem to follow patterns, as if the echoes of long-gone patients are replaying moments of their lives, stuck in a spectral loop. Figures seen in the windows of the hospital are another frequent report. People walking the perimeter of the abandoned buildings often see shadowy silhouettes staring out from upper floors. These figures vanish when approached, leaving no trace other than the lingering sense that they were observing. Some have reported seeing patients' forms pacing the corridors or lingering near doorways, sometimes dressed in clothing reminiscent of the hospital's operational period. Witnesses often describe a sense of sorrow emanating from these figures, as if they are caught between the worlds of the living and the dead, still tethered to the building where they spent much of their lives. The hospital's history contributes to its haunted reputation. Over the decades, treatments that are now considered inhumane, including lobotomies and electroconvulsive therapy, were administered to patients who often had little recourse or understanding of what was happening to them. Combined with overcrowding and insufficient staffing, the environment became one of fear and suffering. Many believe the souls of those who endured this suffering are the source of the persistent hauntings, their presence still lingering long after the hospital ceased operations. Beyond the interior of the buildings, the surrounding grounds have also been the site of paranormal reports. The hospital's cemetery and the areas where patients once walked for fresh air are said to echo with ghostly activity. Some visitors report hearing soft singing or murmurs in these areas at night, while others claim to see fleeting shadows darting among the trees and overgrown paths. These experiences contribute to the belief that the spirits of former patients do not confine themselves to the hospital's walls but roam freely across the campus, reliving fragments of their past. Staff members and urban explorers alike have noted strange occurrences in what were once administrative offices and treatment rooms. Objects moving without explanation, doors locking and unlocking on their own, and sudden drops in temperature are commonly reported. Some have even claimed to see reflections in mirrors of people who are not present or to feel invisible hands brush against them as they move through the halls. These experiences are often accompanied by a deep sense of sadness or unease, suggesting that the spirits of Toledo State Hospital are not malicious, but rather bound to the sorrowful energy of their former lives. Despite the hospital's closure decades ago, Toledo State Hospital remains a point of fascination for paranormal enthusiasts and historians alike. Its imposing architecture, tragic history, and persistent hauntings make it a magnet for those drawn to the supernatural. Guided tours, investigations, and informal explorations continue to bring people to the site, each hoping to catch a glimpse of the unexplained, or to feel a connection with the spirits who linger there. The stories told by witnesses are consistent, suggesting that the phenomena are more than mere imagination. They are echoes of a past that refuses to stay buried. Toledo State Hospital serves as a chilling reminder of the fragile line between life and death, sanity and suffering. The combination of its long history, inhumane treatments, and tragic losses has left a lasting impression on both the physical site and the spiritual realm. Whether it is the cries echoing through abandoned corridors, the cold spots that make visitors shiver, or the shadowy figures in the windows, the presence of former patients is undeniable. The hospital stands as a monument not only to the history of mental health care in Ohio, but also to the restless spirits who remain forever wandering the halls where their lives unfolded in sorrow. For those who visit Toledo State Hospital today, the experience is more than a walk through an abandoned building. It is a journey into a place where the past never truly dies. The walls, the grounds, and the silent corridors all tell a story of lives marked by hardship, fear, and resilience. And even as the sun sets and the shadows lengthen across the campus, the spirits of Toledo State Hospital remain, a haunting presence that whispers of a time gone by, yet refuses to fade from memory. Dayton State Hospital, established in 1855, was once a sprawling facility dedicated to the treatment of the mentally ill in Ohio. Its expansive campus included numerous buildings, dormitories, treatment wards, and even self-sustaining farms meant to provide food and employment for patients. At the time, the hospital was considered a model of progressive care, emphasizing therapeutic work and outdoor activity as part of treatment. Yet despite these intentions, the reality of life at Dayton State Hospital was often grim. Overcrowding, limited resources, and evolving but sometimes harsh medical practices created an environment fraught with stress, fear, and suffering. Over time, the hospital's imposing architecture, combined with its troubled history, laid the groundwork for the chilling tales that would emerge long after its closure. When the hospital finally closed its doors, many of its buildings were left to decay. Overgrown paths, crumbling brick facades, and empty windows became silent witnesses to decades of untold stories. Visitors to the campus often report an immediate sense of unease, a heavy atmosphere that seems to cling to the air. Many claim that the energy of the hospital has not dissipated with its closure. Instead, it lingers, taking the form of whispers, footsteps, and shadowy figures moving through abandoned corridors. The combination of architectural grandeur and desolation creates a setting ripe for paranormal activity, drawing both curious explorers and seasoned ghost hunters to its grounds. Among the most frequently reported phenomena are unexplained voices. Those who venture into the old treatment wings and dormitories often hear conversations carried on the wind or soft murmurs echoing from empty rooms. Some describe hearing names being called, cries of distress, or even faint laughter that seems out of place in the desolate halls. These auditory experiences are often accompanied by the sensation of being watched, as though the hospital itself has eyes that follow every movement. Staff, students, and urban explorers alike recount a pervasive feeling of presence, a sense that unseen eyes are observing them even when they are completely alone. Footsteps are another common occurrence. Visitors often describe the slow, deliberate sound of someone walking behind them, only to turn and find the hallways empty. The footsteps sometimes ascend staircases or move along long corridors, stopping abruptly as though the unseen walker has vanished. Some people report hearing multiple sets of footsteps simultaneously, giving the eerie impression that former patients or staff members are retracing the paths of their daily routines long after the living have left. These auditory experiences are frequently paired with sudden drops in temperature, cold spots that make skin prickle, and breath mist in areas untouched by drafts or air conditioning. Shadowy figures are a recurring theme in accounts of paranormal activity at Dayton State Hospital. Witnesses often describe fleeting silhouettes in the corners of rooms or at the ends of long hallways. Some appear to be dressed in period clothing or hospital uniforms, moving deliberately as if performing unfinished tasks. Many encounters occur near former patient wards or treatment rooms, suggesting a lingering attachment to spaces where significant emotional events once took place. Though rarely threatening, these apparitions evoke a profound sense of sadness or unease, as if the figures carry the weight of past suffering with them. Certain areas of the hospital are particularly notorious. The old wards, where patients spent long hours in isolation or under treatment, are frequently the epicenter of strange occurrences. Stairwells and narrow hallways, echoing with every step, seem to amplify the sense of being followed. Treatment rooms, now stripped of their furnishings, retain an oppressive atmosphere, as though the very walls remember the pain endured within them. Even the surrounding grounds, once used for therapy, work, and recreation, have been the site of reported spectral sightings, with visitors claiming to see figures moving between trees or along overgrown pathways at night. The hospital's history provides context for these hauntings: overcrowding, harsh treatments, and the often tragic experiences of patients created an environment thick with emotional energy. Many who lived and died at Dayton State Hospital did so under difficult circumstances, and paranormal investigators suggest that this intense energy can leave a lasting imprint on the physical space. Residual energy may manifest in the form of apparitions, cold spots, or disembodied sounds, giving the impression that the spirits of former patients and staff have not fully left the premises. Despite the building's decay and its reputation for haunting, Dayton State Hospital continues to attract attention. Paranormal enthusiasts, historians, and urban explorers are drawn to the site, hoping to witness the unexplained for themselves. Reports of voices, footsteps, and shadowy figures remain consistent, reinforcing the belief that the hospital is more than an abandoned structure. It is a place where the past continues to reach into the present. Visitors often speak of a mixture of fear and fascination, recognizing that while the buildings are empty, the memories and spirits of those who lived there endure. Dayton State Hospital serves as a haunting reminder of the complex history of mental health care in Ohio. Its grand campus, once intended as a place of healing, became a setting of hardship, suffering, and, eventually, mystery. From disembodied footsteps and whispering voices to shadowy figures wandering deserted halls, the hospital remains a site where the line between past and present, living and dead, feels blurred. Those who enter are confronted not only with the remnants of physical decay, but with the echoes of countless lives shaped by confinement, treatment, and endurance. Even decades after its closure, Dayton State Hospital continues to captivate and chill, offering a stark glimpse into a place where history and the supernatural converge, and where the spirits of the past refuse to be forgotten. Cleveland State Hospital, once a sprawling institution for the mentally ill, operated from the late 1800s until its closure in the 1970s. Located in Cleveland, Ohio, the hospital was built to accommodate a rapidly growing patient population, providing care, albeit often harsh and controversial, to thousands over the decades. The complex consisted of large brick buildings, long hallways, and multiple wings that stretched across a significant portion of land, designed to house and treat men and women struggling with mental illness. At the time, the hospital represented the state's effort to manage mental health in a structured, institutional environment. However, the reality of life within its walls was frequently grim. Overcrowding, insufficient staffing, and outdated medical practices created a tense and often frightening atmosphere that left a lasting impression on both patients and staff. Even after its closure in the 1970s, the legacy of Cleveland State Hospital has not faded. Abandoned buildings now stand silent and decaying, their windows broken and facades weathered by decades of neglect. Yet locals, urban explorers, and paranormal enthusiasts continue to be drawn to the site, reporting a wide range of unexplained phenomena. From ghostly voices to shadowy figures, many believe that the spirits of former patients and staff still inhabit the grounds, echoing the hospital's long and troubled history. One of the most frequently reported experiences involves unexplained sounds. Visitors often describe hearing distant footsteps echoing through empty hallways, the clatter of metal doors swinging on their own, or muffled voices that seem to come from nowhere. These sounds are especially pronounced in areas that were once patient wards, where the intense emotional energy of countless lives intersected over decades. Some who have explored the hospital report hearing calls for help, whispers of names, or soft crying in rooms that have long been abandoned. These auditory phenomena are often accompanied by a sudden drop in temperature, a chill that seems to follow visitors as they move through the desolate corridors. Shadowy apparitions are another common report at Cleveland State Hospital. Witnesses often see fleeting silhouettes moving along hallways or standing in doorways, only to disappear when approached. Some describe figures dressed in period clothing or hospital uniforms, suggesting a direct connection to the hospital's operational years. These apparitions rarely interact with visitors, but seem to observe, leaving an overwhelming sense of presence. Many report feeling as if someone or something is watching their every step, creating a profound sense of unease that lingers long after leaving the building. Certain areas of the hospital are particularly notorious for paranormal activity. Former patient wards, treatment rooms, and the administrative offices are frequent hotspots for unexplained phenomena. Stairwells, with their narrow, echoing steps, often seem to amplify the sensation of being followed. And rooms that were once used for isolation or treatment are said to carry an oppressive atmosphere, as if the walls themselves remember the suffering that occurred within them. Even the surrounding grounds, once used for patient recreation or staff routines, have been the site of ghostly sightings, with reports of figures moving through overgrown paths and gardens late at night. The hospital's history helps explain its haunting reputation. Controversial treatments, such as electroconvulsive therapy, isolation, and experimental procedures, were common. And overcrowding often left patients in distressing conditions. Many who lived and died at Cleveland State Hospital experienced suffering and fear on a daily basis, and paranormal investigators believe that such intense negative energy can leave an imprint on a building, manifesting years later as apparitions, unexplained sounds, or sudden environmental changes. Visitors often describe an overwhelming sadness or unease when exploring the hospital, suggesting that the spirits of the past may still be present, replaying fragments of their lives. Windows throughout the abandoned complex are also the source of many chilling encounters. Locals and explorers frequently report seeing figures staring from the upper floors, sometimes watching silently for minutes before vanishing. These sightings often occur at dusk or in the dead of night, when shadows are long and the building's decayed architecture adds to the sense of foreboding. Some describe faces peering out from glass, only to find the panes empty moments later, leaving an unsettling impression that the spirits remained tethered to the place where they once lived and suffered. Paranormal investigations at Cleveland State Hospital have captured further evidence of unexplained phenomena. Using thermal cameras, EMF detectors, and audio recording equipment, investigators have documented cold spots, fluctuating electromagnetic readings, and electronic voice phenomena that coincide with witness accounts. These findings reinforce the idea that the hospital is more than an abandoned building. It is a site where history, human emotion, and the unexplained converge. For many, the experience of visiting the hospital is both thrilling and unnerving, a direct encounter with the echoes of the past. Cleveland State Hospital remains a haunting testament to the complex history of mental health care in Ohio. Its abandoned halls, broken windows, and empty patient rooms tell a story of suffering, resilience, and the weight of institutional life. From the soft whispers and crying in the corridors to the shadowy figures observed in the halls and windows, the hospital continues to captivate those who dare to explore it. The spirits of former patients and staff seem determined to be remembered, their presence lingering in the decaying structures as a reminder that the past is never truly gone. Visitors to the site often describe a mixture of fear, fascination, and respect. Walking through the remains of Cleveland State Hospital is a journey into history and the unknown, where the lines between life and death blur, and the voices of the past echo through the halls. Even decades after its closure, the hospital endures as a chilling monument to the lives it housed, the treatments it administered, and the spirits that refused to rest. Northampton State Hospital, located in Massachusetts, may be far from Ohio, but its legacy of psychiatric care, architectural influence, and haunting tales has left an indelible mark on the history of mental health institutions in the region. Established in the mid-19th century, Northampton became a model for the Kirkbride Planet design concept, emphasizing long, staggered wings, large windows, and open spaces intended to promote patient well-being. Its architectural principles, however, would go on to influence the construction of several asylums in Ohio, including Toledo State Hospital and Cleveland State Hospital, leaving a lasting imprint not only on the physical landscape of mental health facilities, but also on the aura of despair and unrest that would accompany these institutions. The hospital's early years were marked by optimism and reformist intentions. Doctors and administrators hoped that structured routines, exposure to fresh air, and therapeutic work would rehabilitate patients suffering from mental illness. In practice, however, the hospital struggled to maintain humane conditions. Overcrowding quickly became a problem as the patient population swelled, leading to cramped quarters, insufficient staffing, and stretched resources. Many patients were left confined to small, windowless rooms for extended periods, while treatments like restraints, electroconvulsive therapy, and experimental procedures were administered with varying degrees of consent or oversight. These conditions, combined with emotional suffering, created an environment of fear and despair that would reverberate for generations. Even after Northampton State Hospital closed its doors, stories of ghostly activity persisted, connecting it conceptually to the haunted reputations of Ohio's asylums. Visitors to the decaying campus often describe a tangible sense of unease, as if the very walls remember the pain and anguish of those who once lived and worked there. The long corridors, high ceilings, and numerous wings echo with footsteps and soft, inexplicable whispers, even in empty spaces. Some explorers report hearing calls for help, as though the building itself retains the cries of patients who spent their lives within its confines. Others speak of faint laughter or murmurs drifting from rooms long abandoned, often accompanied by sudden, chilling drops in temperature that seem to defy logic. Shadowy figures are a recurring feature in accounts of Northampton State Hospital. Witnesses often see forms moving at the edge of their vision, disappearing when directly observed. Some describe apparitions dressed in period clothing or staff uniforms, suggesting the spirits of nurses, doctors, and patients who linger still. These figures rarely interact aggressively, but evoke a profound sense of sadness or unease, as if trapped between the world of the living and the world of the dead. Many paranormal enthusiasts theorize that the residual energy of intense suffering, fear, and confinement has been imprinted upon the building, creating a replay of past events that manifests to those sensitive to such phenomena. The hospital's design itself amplifies the haunting atmosphere. The Kirkbride-style wings stretch for long distances, allowing sounds to carry eerily from one end to the other. Narrow hallways and stairwells create echo chambers where footsteps and whispers seem to multiply, and the tall, shadowed windows allow shifting light to play tricks on the eyes, making empty corridors feel inhabited. Visitors often report that certain rooms once used for solitary confinement, treatment, or patient housing feel particularly heavy, as though the walls themselves are bearing the weight of past trauma. While Northampton State Hospital is geographically distant from Ohio, its influence on Ohio asylums is significant. Hospitals like Toledo State Hospital and Cleveland State Hospital were built following architectural and operational principles first applied at Northampton, incorporating long wings, large windows, and separate wards intended to foster a therapeutic environment. Unfortunately, the same conditions that created an ideal framework for treatment also allowed overcrowding and mistreatment to occur. And Ohio's institutions inherited both the physical designs and the latent energy of suffering. The haunted reputations of these Ohio facilities can, in part, be traced back to the same principles and practices first used at Northampton. The surrounding grounds of Northampton State Hospital also hold their own unsettling tales. Overgrown lawns, abandoned gardens, and empty courtyards serve as silent witnesses to decades of patient life. Visitors often describe fleeting glimpses of figures moving through trees or along paths, as if continuing their daily routines long after death. The overgrowth and decay amplify the sense of isolation and neglect, making the environment feel alive with the memories of those who once inhabited it. Some have even reported hearing soft singing, murmurs of conversation, or the distant sounds of footsteps echoing across the deserted campus. Paranormal investigations at Northampton have recorded many anomalies that corroborate witness reports. EMF spikes, temperature fluctuations, and electronic voice phenomena are common findings, particularly in areas that once housed patients or staff offices. These investigations reinforce the belief that the hospital is more than an abandoned building. It is a repository of memory, emotion, and residual energy. Visitors who explore these halls frequently describe feelings of being watched, a sudden heaviness, or an inexplicable sadness that follows them from room to room. Northampton State Hospital serves as a chilling reminder of the fragile line between care and suffering, hope and despair. Its architectural design, intended to heal, became a backdrop for human hardship, leaving a legacy that continues to reverberate through both time and space. For Ohio, the hospital's influence extends beyond architecture and into the spectral. The echoes of suffering and unrest that haunt Ohio asylums are, in part, a continuation of Northampton's shadow. Visitors to the site today find themselves walking not just among decaying walls, but among the memories, spirits, and lingering energy of countless lives once constrained within its halls. Even long after its closure, Northampton State Hospital remains a symbol of the intersection between history and the supernatural. Its darkened corridors, empty rooms, and overgrown grounds tell stories of suffering, resilience, and the enduring presence of spirits who refuse to leave. For those willing to explore, the hospital offers an unsettling glimpse into the past, a place where architecture, human experience, and the paranormal converge, reminding all who enter that some echoes of history and some spirits never fade. Lima State Hospital, established in the early 1900s, was a sprawling institution designed to care for patients struggling with mental illness. Situated on an extensive campus, the hospital included multiple brick buildings, treatment wards, dormitories, and administrative offices, all designed to function as a self-contained community. At the time of its opening, Lima State Hospital represented the ideals of progressive mental health care, providing structured routines, therapeutic work, and outdoor activities for patients. Yet beneath the surface of these intentions, the reality was far darker. Overcrowding, understaffing, and the limitations of early 20th century psychiatry created a tense and often frightening environment for those confined within its walls. Throughout its operational years, Lima State Hospital was home to thousands of patients, many of whom spent decades within its halls. While some found solace in the therapeutic programs and daily routines, others experienced isolation, harsh treatments, and the emotional weight of being institutionalized. Accounts from former staff describe the challenges of managing large populations of patients with complex needs, often under difficult circumstances. Over time, these conditions left a lasting mark on the hospital, and it is believed that the intense emotions and suffering of both patients and staff contributed to the building's eerie presence, a presence that continues to manifest decades after the hospital's closure. After the hospital closed, the campus was largely abandoned, its buildings succumbing to decay and neglect. Broken windows, peeling paint, and overgrown grounds created an atmosphere both somber and unsettling. Yet these ruins did not remain empty for long. Urban explorers, thrill seekers, and paranormal investigators began to venture into the deserted halls, drawn by rumors of unexplained activity. Reports quickly emerged of strange occurrences, many of which echo the hospital's history of suffering and unrest. One of the most common reports involves shadowy figures moving through the abandoned corridors. Witnesses describe fleeting silhouettes at the edges of their vision, often dressed in old-fashioned clothing or hospital uniforms, as if they are remnants of patients and staff from decades past. These apparitions rarely interact directly with visitors, but their presence evokes a deep sense of unease, leaving those who encounter them feeling watched or followed. Some explorers report seeing these figures standing in empty rooms, disappearing only when approached, suggesting that they may be tied to the emotional energy of the spaces themselves. Unexplained noises are another hallmark of Lima State Hospital's haunting reputation. Visitors often hear footsteps echoing down long, empty hallways, doors opening and closing on their own, and soft murmurs or cries that seem to emanate from nowhere. Some claim to hear the distant ringing of bells or the shuffle of movement in rooms that have long been stripped of furniture. These sounds are most frequently reported in former patient wards and treatment areas, where intense emotional experiences likely left a residual imprint on the environment. The combination of auditory phenomena and sudden drops in temperature, cold spots that make skin prickle and breath mist in mid reinforces the sense that the hospital is far from abandoned, but rather alive with the lingering presence of its past inhabitants. Certain areas of the hospital are particularly notorious for activity. Isolation rooms, former treatment wards, and long hallways where patients once walked are frequent hotspots. Urban explorers often describe a heavy atmosphere in these spaces, a weight that presses down as though the walls themselves remember the distress and suffering that occurred within them. Stairwells amplify these sensations, with echoes making footsteps and whispers seem multiplied, creating an immersive environment that blurs the line between reality and the supernatural. Even outdoor areas, such as courtyards and gardens once used for patient recreation, have been the site of reported sightings and strange sounds, with figures occasionally glimpsed moving through overgrown pathways. The hospital's history provides important context for its haunted reputation. Treatments once considered standard, such as electroconvulsive therapy, restraints, and prolonged isolation, created intense emotional responses among patients. Coupled with overcrowding and understaffing, these conditions fostered an atmosphere of fear and despair. Paranormal enthusiasts suggest that such concentrated emotion can leave a lasting energy imprint, resulting in residual hauntings that manifest as apparitions, voices, or environmental disturbances. Visitors often report that the hospital's energy is thick and oppressive, creating a sense of unease even among those who are skeptical of the supernatural. Sightings at Lima State Hospital frequently involve fleeting figures near windows or at the ends of hallways. Locals and explorers describe glances of pale faces staring out from the upper floors, only to vanish when fully observed. Others recount figures moving silently along corridors or appearing to perform daily routines as if they were still living within the hospital. These encounters, while often brief, leave a lasting impression, and many visitors describe an overwhelming sadness or heaviness that follows them through the buildings and beyond the gates. Paranormal investigations have documented further anomalies at Lima State Hospital. EMF spikes, unexplained temperature fluctuations, and electronic voice phenomena have been recorded in areas where sightings and sounds are most commonly reported. While skeptics may attribute some events to structural decay or natural acoustics, the consistency and intensity of multiple witness accounts have solidified the hospital's reputation as one of Ohio's most haunted, abandoned institutions. Lima State Hospital stands today as a chilling reminder of the complex history of mental health care. Its abandoned halls, crumbling walls, and overgrown grounds are more than just relics of a bygone era. They are repositories of memory, emotion, and residual energy. From shadowy figures and unexplained footsteps to cold spots and whispers that defy explanation, the hospital continues to captivate and unnerve those who explore it. Though its patients and staff have long since passed, their presence seems to linger, a testament to the lives, struggles, and histories contained within the hospital's walls. Even decades after its closure, Lima State Hospital remains a place where the past refuses to stay buried. Its eerie atmosphere, spectral sightings, and unexplained phenomena serve as a haunting reminder that some places carry more than memories. They carry echoes of souls who have yet to find peace. Those who dare to walk its abandoned corridors are confronted not only with physical decay, but with the lingering presence of lives once lived within, creating an experience both terrifying and unforgettable. Sandusky State Hospital, located along the shores of Lake Erie in Ohio, opened its doors in the late 1800s as a treatment center for the mentally ill. At the time, it was hailed as a state-of-the-art institution, built under the principles of the Kirkbride Plan, which emphasized long, staggered wings, and open spaces to promote patient wellness. The sprawling complex included multiple patient wards, administrative buildings, treatment areas, and recreational grounds, creating a self-contained environment where patients could live, work, and receive care. Despite its promising design and progressive intentions, the reality of life within Sandusky State Hospital was far from ideal. Overcrowding quickly became a persistent problem, and the hospital struggled to maintain adequate staffing and resources, leading to tense conditions and widespread suffering. During its operational years, the hospital became known for the use of controversial treatments, electroconvulsive therapy, physical restraints, and isolation rooms were common. And while some practices were seen as necessary at the time, others reflected the darker side of institutional mental health care. Patients often experienced long periods of confinement, while emotional and physical distress became an everyday reality. Reports from former staff and visitors suggest that the atmosphere inside the hospital could be overwhelmingly oppressive, with fear and despair permeating the long hallways and patient wards. Many believe that these intense emotions left an imprint on the building itself, creating the conditions for the hauntings that would persist long after the hospital closed. Sandusky State Hospital officially ceased operations decades ago, but the sprawling campus did not fade into quiet oblivion. The abandoned buildings, now decaying and weathered, became a magnet for urban explorers, ghost hunters, and thrill seekers, drawn to the site's notorious reputation. Broken windows, crumbling walls, and overgrown grounds lend an eerie, desolate appearance to the property. But those who venture inside often report experiences that go far beyond the visual decay. Over the years, stories of paranormal activity have emerged, painting the hospital as one of Ohio's most haunted locations. One of the most common phenomena reported at Sandusky State Hospital is the presence of shadowy figures. Visitors frequently describe fleeting silhouettes moving through hallways, appearing at the edge of vision before vanishing entirely. Some report seeing figures dressed in old-fashioned patient gowns or nurse uniforms, hinting at a connection to the hospital's operational past. While these apparitions rarely interact directly with the living, their presence is unmistakable, creating a sense of being watched that leaves explorers with a lingering unease. Unexplained noises are another hallmark of Sandusky's haunted reputation. Footsteps echo along empty corridors, doors creak or slam on their own, and muffled whispers or cries seem to drift from abandoned rooms. Some visitors have reported the distant sound of chains rattling, while others claim to hear patients calling out, even in areas that have long been stripped of furniture. These auditory experiences are often accompanied by sudden drops in temperature, with cold spots forming inexplicably in certain rooms, creating a sensation that chills both body and mind. Certain areas of the hospital are especially notorious for paranormal activity. Former patient wards, isolation rooms, and treatment areas are often described as heavy with an oppressive energy, as though the walls themselves retain the emotional residue of those who lived and sometimes suffered there. Stairwells and long corridors amplify sounds, making footsteps, whispers, and other noises appear multiplied and more unsettling. The hospital's recreational grounds, once bustling with activity, are also reported to be sites of ghostly sightings, with figures occasionally glimpsed walking among the overgrown paths or standing silently near the edges of the property. The history of Sandusky State Hospital helps explain its haunting reputation. Overcrowding, understaffing, and controversial treatments created conditions that were stressful, frightening, and sometimes life-threatening. Many patients endured years of isolation, fear, and confusion, while staff were often overworked and unable to provide adequate care. Paranormal enthusiasts believe that such intense negative energy can leave a residual imprint on a building, manifesting years later as apparitions, disembodied voices, and unexplained environmental changes. Those who enter the hospital often describe an overwhelming sense of sadness or heaviness, as if the collective experiences of countless lives are still present in the decaying structure. Windows at Sandusky State Hospital are frequently the setting for unsettling encounters. Visitors report seeing pale faces staring out from upper floors, only to vanish moments later. Some describe fleeting figures gliding past broken window panes or standing silently in doorways, as if replaying routines from a bygone era. These sightings, while brief, are enough to leave a lasting impression, reinforcing the belief that the spirits of former patients and staff remain tethered to the hospital long after their deaths. Paranormal investigations at the site have recorded numerous anomalies, including EMF spikes, unexplained temperature fluctuations, and electronic voice phenomena, while skeptics often cite natural explanations such as building decay or acoustics. The sheer consistency of witness accounts, combined with captured evidence, supports the idea that Sandusky State Hospital is more than just an abandoned property. It is a space where history, human suffering, and residual energy converge, creating a haunting that continues to draw attention. Today, Sandusky State Hospital stands as a chilling reminder of the history of mental health care in Ohio. Its abandoned halls, broken windows, and empty rooms are not only physical remnants of the past, but also a stage for lingering spirits. From shadowy figures and unexplained footsteps to cold spots and disembodied voices, the hospital offers visitors a window into the lives, struggles, and emotions of those who once walked its halls. The site remains a place of fascination, fear, and respect, where the echoes of the past continue to resonate. Even decades after its closure, Sandusky State Hospital refuses to be forgotten. Its chilling presence serves as a reminder that some places are haunted not just by stories, but by the lingering energies of those who suffered, worked, and lived within them. For those who dare to explore, the hospital is a haunting testament to the lives it touched. A place where the boundary between past and present, life and death, feels impossibly thin. Columbus State Hospital, established in the mid-1800s, was once one of Ohio's largest and most prominent mental health institutions. Situated on an expansive campus, the hospital consisted of multiple buildings, including patient wards, treatment facilities, administrative offices, and recreational areas. It was designed to accommodate a growing population of individuals struggling with mental illness, and at its height, it housed hundreds, sometimes thousands, of patients. The hospital was considered progressive for its time, employing experimental treatments intended to help patients recover or manage their conditions. Yet, despite these intentions, life within the hospital was often harsh and unsettling, marked by overcrowding, strict regimens, and procedures that would later be considered controversial or inhumane. Throughout its years of operation, Columbus State Hospital became known for both its impressive scale and its troubled history. Patients endured long stays in institutionalized settings, with many confined to small rooms or wards for extended periods. Experimental treatments ranged from hydrotherapy and electric shock therapy to various forms of restraint and isolation. While some patients benefited from care, others suffered immensely, and reports of neglect, abuse, and tragedy became a recurring theme. Staff members often worked under immense pressure, facing large patient populations with limited resources, which created an environment of tension and distress. Many believe that the intense emotions, fear, despair, and anguish left an imprint on the hospital itself, contributing to the spectral presence that would haunt the buildings long after their closure. After the hospital closed, its buildings were abandoned, left to decay and succumb to the elements. Windows shattered, walls crumbled, and nature slowly reclaimed the grounds, creating an eerie and desolate atmosphere. Yet the physical decay was not the only legacy the hospital left behind. Rumors of hauntings quickly emerged, drawing urban explorers, paranormal investigators, and thrill-seekers to the site. Accounts of strange occurrences, both visual and auditory, began to surface, painting Columbus State Hospital as one of Ohio's most haunted, abandoned institutions. One of the most common reports involves shadowy figures moving silently through the empty corridors. Witnesses often describe fleeting shapes at the edge of their vision, sometimes appearing in patient gowns or staff uniforms, as if echoing the lives once lived there. These figures rarely interact directly, but their presence is unmistakable, producing a sense of being watched or followed. Some visitors have reported seeing apparitions standing in old treatment rooms, disappearing when approached, suggesting that the lingering spirits are tied to the hospital's history and the emotions of those who once resided within its walls. Unexplained noises are another frequent occurrence at Columbus State Hospital. Footsteps echo along hallways, even when no one is present. Doors creak or slam without cause, and soft whispers or moans drift through abandoned rooms. Some explorers claim to hear distant voices calling names or patients quietly conversing, particularly in areas that were once densely populated with residents. These auditory phenomena are often accompanied by sudden, chilling drops in temperature. Cold spots form inexplicably in hallways and rooms, making visitors feel as if invisible hands are brushing against their skin. Certain parts of the hospital are particularly notorious for activity. Former patient wards, isolation rooms, and treatment areas are often described as heavy with oppressive energy. The architecture itself amplifies these sensations. Long hallways and high ceilings create echoes that make footsteps, whispers, and distant sounds seem magnified. Stairwells and narrow corridors intensify the feeling of being followed or observed. Even outdoor areas, such as courtyards and abandoned gardens, are not free from reports of paranormal activity, with shadowy figures occasionally glimpsed moving through overgrown pathways or standing silently near broken fences. The hospital's history explains much of its haunted reputation. Overcrowding, understaffing, and experimental treatments created conditions of fear and suffering. Patients endured isolation, confusion, and emotional distress, while staff struggled to maintain order and provide care. Paranormal researchers suggest that such concentrated negative energy can imprint itself on a building, manifesting years later as residual hauntings in the form of apparitions, voices, or environmental disturbances. Visitors often describe an overwhelming sense of sadness, heaviness, or tension that persists throughout the hospital, as if the walls themselves remember the emotional weight of decades of human experience. Windows in the abandoned hospital are frequent locations for strange encounters. Witnesses report seeing pale faces peering out from upper floors or standing silently near broken panes, vanishing before anyone can reach them. Others describe figures gliding along corridors or appearing to perform daily routines, such as walking to treatment rooms or tending to patients, as though trapped in a perpetual replay of life within the hospital. These encounters, brief as they may be, leave a lasting impression and reinforce the belief that Columbus State Hospital is far from empty. Paranormal investigations at the site have yielded further evidence of unusual activity. EMF spikes, unexplained temperature fluctuations, and electronic voice phenomena have been documented in locations with frequent reports of sightings and sounds. While skeptics may attribute some experiences to structural decay or natural acoustics, the consistency and intensity of multiple witness accounts make it clear that something more than mere physical deterioration is at play. Today, Columbus State Hospital stands as a haunting reminder of Ohio's history of mental health care. Its abandoned buildings and overgrown grounds are more than relics of the past. They are repositories of memory, emotion, and lingering energy. From shadowy figures and unexplained footsteps to sudden cold spots and disembodied voices, the hospital continues to captivate and unsettle all who explore it. The site serves as a chilling testament to the lives, struggles, and histories contained within its walls. A place where the past refuses to remain buried, and the presence of spirits seems palpable to anyone willing to enter. Even decades after its closure, Columbus State Hospital remains a site where history, human suffering, and the supernatural converge. Those who venture through its empty halls are confronted not only with decay and desolation, but also with the echoes of countless lives once lived there. The hospital is a place where the boundary between the living and the dead feels impossibly thin, offering an experience both terrifying and unforgettable. A place where the past refuses to stay silent. Cincinnati State Hospital, established in the late 1800s, was once a sprawling institution dedicated to the care of the mentally ill. Situated on a vast campus, The hospital included multiple patient wards, treatment facilities, administrative buildings, and recreational areas, all designed to create a self-contained community where patients could live and receive care. At the time of its opening, the hospital represented the cutting edge of psychiatric treatment, combining structured routines, occupational therapy, and open-air wards intended to promote recovery. Yet despite these progressive intentions, life inside Cincinnati State Hospital was often grim, shaped by overcrowding, understaffing, and the limitations of contemporary mental health practices. Over the decades, thousands of patients passed through its halls, many of whom stayed for years. While some received care and support, others endured isolation, harsh treatments, and emotional distress. Accounts from former staff describe an environment that was at once demanding and chaotic, with tensions often running high due to the large patient population and limited resources. Stories of neglect, strict discipline, and emotional suffering became a quiet undercurrent to the hospital's daily operations. Paranormal enthusiasts suggest that the intensity of these experiences left a lasting impression, embedding residual energy into the building that continues to manifest in eerie ways. After its closure, Cincinnati State Hospital fell into disrepair. The once pristine brick buildings now stood abandoned, their windows shattered, paint peeling, and interiors overtaken by dust and decay. Nature began reclaiming the grounds, with overgrown pathways and crumbling walls, lending an atmosphere of desolation and melancholy. Yet the physical deterioration did not erase the hospital's presence. Instead, it became a magnet for urban explorers, ghost hunters, and thrill seekers, drawn by rumors of hauntings and unexplained phenomena. Visitors to the site frequently report encounters with shadowy figures. These fleeting silhouettes are often seen in hallways, at the edges of stairwells, or standing silently in empty rooms. Some witnesses describe figures dressed in old-fashioned patient gowns or nurse uniforms, as though remnants of those who once walked the halls have not moved on. While these apparitions rarely interact directly with observers, their presence evokes an unsettling feeling of being watched or followed. Many claim that these figures seem to linger near areas of historical significance, such as former treatment rooms or patient wards, reinforcing the sense that the hospital's history continues to resonate in the present. Unexplained sounds are a recurring theme at Cincinnati State Hospital. Footsteps echo through empty corridors, doors creak or slam unexpectedly, and faint whispers or moans drift from abandoned rooms. Some visitors report hearing distant voices, calling out names, or patients conversing in rooms long stripped of furniture. These sounds are often accompanied by sudden, chilling drops in temperature. Cold spots appear without warning, causing visitors to shiver as if invisible hands are brushing against them. The combination of auditory phenomena and environmental disturbances contributes to an overwhelming sense of unease, leaving even the most skeptical explorers questioning what is real. Certain parts of the hospital are notorious for paranormal activity. Former patient wards, isolation rooms, and treatment areas are often described as particularly heavy with energy. The architecture itself amplifies sensations of fear and tension. Long hallways create echoes that make footsteps and whispers seem multiplied, while stairwells magnify even the faintest sounds, adding to the eerie atmosphere. The hospital's historical context helps explain its haunting reputation. Overcrowding, understaffing, and the use of experimental or restrictive treatments created intense emotional experiences for both patients and staff. Many patients endured prolonged isolation, confusion, and despair. While staff often faced difficult and emotionally taxing conditions, paranormal investigators suggest that such concentrated emotion can leave a lasting imprint, resulting in residual hauntings in the form of apparitions, unexplained noises, and environmental disturbances. Visitors to Cincinnati State Hospital often report a heavy, oppressive feeling, as though the walls themselves remember decades of human suffering. Windows and hallways are frequent settings for ghostly encounters. Witnesses describe pale faces appearing in broken window panes or shadowy figures moving along deserted corridors, only to vanish when approached. Some report seeing figures performing everyday tasks, such as walking to treatment rooms or standing near patient beds, as if frozen in a moment of time. These glimpses of the past are brief but leave a lasting impact, reinforcing the notion that Cincinnati State Hospital is far from empty, and that its history is very much alive in the spectral sense. Paranormal investigations at the hospital have documented unusual activity, including EMF fluctuations, unexplained temperature shifts, and electronic voice phenomena. While skeptics may attribute some experiences to building decay or acoustics, the consistency of eyewitness accounts, combined with captured evidence, suggests that the hospital harbors more than just memories of the past. It is a place where history, human suffering, and residual energy converge, creating a haunting experience that continues to draw attention. Today, Cincinnati State Hospital stands as a chilling monument to the history of mental health care in Ohio. Its abandoned halls, broken windows, and overgrown grounds are more than relics. They are witnesses to the lives, struggles, and suffering contained within its walls. From shadowy figures and unexplained footsteps to cold spots and disembodied voices, the hospital continues to intrigue, unsettle, and fascinate all who dare to explore it. The site remains a testament to the lingering impact of the past, a place where the echoes of lives once lived refuse to remain silent, and the line between the living and the dead feels impossibly thin. Even decades after its closure, Cincinnati State Hospital remains a haunting presence. Those who wander through its abandoned corridors confront not just physical decay, but the lingering energy of countless souls, making the site both terrifying and unforgettable. The hospital stands as a stark reminder that some places carry with them the memories, emotions, and spirits of those who never fully left, keeping the past alive in the most chilling of ways. Athens Asylum Cemetery, located on the outskirts of Athens, Ohio, sits quietly beside the sprawling grounds of the historic Athens Lunatic Asylum, now known as the Ridges. Unlike many traditional cemeteries, this burial ground is modest, somber, and shrouded in an air of quiet mystery. Established to enter patients who passed away within the asylum's walls, the cemetery reflects the often overlooked lives of those confined to the institution. Many graves are marked by simple headstones, while others bear only numbers, stripping the deceased of identity, even in death. This anonymity, combined with the cemetery's proximity to the asylum, has contributed to its reputation as one of Ohio's most haunting locations. The history of the cemetery is closely tied to the troubled past of the Athens Asylum itself. During the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the hospital housed hundreds of patients, many of whom were admitted under circumstances that today would be considered unjust or even cruel. Disease, mental illness, and lack of proper care claimed the lives of countless individuals, and many were buried in the cemetery without fanfare or ceremony. The starkness of the burial ground, with rows of simple markers stretching across the landscape, serves as a reminder of the human suffering that occurred within the asylum. For modern visitors, it is this combination of history, neglect, and anonymity that creates a powerful sense of unease. Visitors to Athens Asylum Cemetery often report a chilling presence that seems to linger among the tombstones. Shadowy figures have been seen moving between graves, sometimes appearing as fleeting silhouettes that vanish when approached. Witnesses describe the sensation of being watched, an invisible gaze following their every step as they navigate the uneven paths and grassy Some claim to see the faint outline of former patients walking slowly along the rows of markers, their movements deliberate but ghostly, as if trapped between this world and the next. The anonymity of many graves only heightens the eeriness, leaving the living to wonder who these wandering spirits might have been and what stories they carried in life. Unexplained sounds are also a hallmark of the cemetery's haunting. On quiet nights, visitors report hearing distant whispers, low moans, or the faint sound of footsteps on the grass, even when no one else is present. Some have claimed to hear the rustle of clothing or the soft murmur of conversations between unseen figures. Others recount sudden gusts of cold air that seem to pass through them without warning, an icy chill that lingers even in otherwise warm weather. These experiences create an unsettling atmosphere, suggesting that the cemetery is far more than a resting place. It is a threshold where the emotions and memories of the past continue to linger. The layout of the cemetery contributes to its haunting nature. Narrow pathways weave between rows of headstones, some of which are cracked or leaning, giving the impression of decay and age. Trees with gnarled branches cast long shadows in the moonlight, creating natural corridors where darkness seems to gather. In the evening, fog from nearby hills can roll over the graves, obscuring vision and adding to the sense of disorientation. These elements combine to heighten the perception of movement or presence, making even a solitary walk through the cemetery a nerve-wracking experience for those sensitive to its history. Some visitors report seeing specific apparitions repeatedly. One commonly described figure is that of a patient in early 20th century clothing, standing silently near a numbered grave as if keeping watch. Others claim to see groups of faint figures clustered near particular sections, whispering or pacing in a way that seems ritualistic. While skeptics may attribute such sightings to imagination or environmental factors, the consistency of these accounts over decades has led many to believe that Athens Asylum Cemetery is genuinely haunted. Paranormal investigators often cite these repeated reports as evidence of lingering energy from the lives that ended within the asylum's walls. Many also feel an overwhelming sense of sadness or despair upon entering the cemetery. This emotional weight is difficult to explain but is commonly reported by visitors who spend time among the graves. The oppressive atmosphere may stem from the suffering endured by the patients during their lifetimes, or from the sheer number of individuals who were buried without ceremony or recognition. Either way, the experience is profoundly affecting, leaving a lasting impression on those who come to witness the sight. The cemetery's proximity to the asylum intensifies its spectral presence. Those who explore both locations often describe interactions that seem to link the two, such as hearing footsteps on the asylum grounds while standing among the graves, or glimpsing figures moving from the hospital toward the cemetery. Some suggest that the spirits of the deceased are drawn to familiar locations, lingering where they lived and suffered, unable or unwilling to move on. The connection between the asylum and its cemetery underscores the idea that history, emotion, and human experience are tightly interwoven, even in death. Despite its eerie reputation, Athens Asylum Cemetery remains a place of reflection and remembrance. For some, the hauntings serve as a reminder of the individuals who endured unimaginable hardships within the walls of the asylum. For others, the cemetery is a site of curiosity and fear, a tangible connection to a past that is simultaneously fascinating and unsettling. Whether viewed through the lens of history or the paranormal, it is impossible to ignore the lingering presence that seems to hover over the tombstones, whispering the stories of lives long past. Even today, decades after the asylum's closure, visitors to Athens Asylum Cemetery report experiences that cannot be easily explained. Figures among the graves, sudden cold spots, and whispered voices all contribute to its reputation as one of Ohio's most haunted sites. The cemetery stands as a solemn yet chilling reminder of the lives of those who were forgotten in life, but whose spirits may still roam the land in death. A haunting testament to history's sorrow and the enduring power of memory. Harrison County Infirmary, located in Cadiz, Ohio, was built in the early 1900s as a facility to care for the county's impoverished and sick. Initially serving as an almshouse, it provided shelter, food, and basic medical care to residents who had nowhere else to turn. Over time, the infirmary expanded its services and eventually became a tuberculosis sanatorium, treating patients suffering from one of the deadliest diseases of the era. Life within the infirmary was harsh, shaped by strict routines, limited resources, and the challenges of dealing with illness and poverty. Many residents spent their entire lives within its walls, while others succumbed to disease, leaving behind stories of hardship, suffering, and quiet desperation. After the building's closure, the Harrison County Infirmary fell into disrepair. Windows became boarded, paint peeled from the walls, and the once bustling halls grew silent. Nature slowly began reclaiming the grounds, with overgrown grass and tangled vines creeping along the exterior. Despite its abandonment, the building quickly became a magnet for curiosity seekers, urban explorers, and paranormal enthusiasts, drawn by tales of hauntings and the lingering presence of those who had lived and died there. Visitors often report an overwhelming sense of unease, as if the building itself retains the memory of the countless souls who passed through it. Witnesses have described seeing shadowy figures walking through corridors, standing silently in empty rooms, or appearing at the edges of their vision before vanishing without warning. Some figures are said to resemble patients in old-fashioned hospital gowns, while others appear more ethereal, gliding across hallways with an almost ghostly grace. The apparitions rarely interact directly, but their presence is often accompanied by a heavy feeling of being watched or followed, making even brief encounters deeply unsettling. Unexplained sounds are also frequently reported within the infirmary. Visitors describe hearing footsteps echoing in empty halls, the clanging of doors, and faint whispers that seem to come from nowhere. Some have reported hearing voices calling out names, low murmurs that fade when approached, or the sound of wheezing and coughing when no patient remains. The combination of these noises, coupled with sudden drops in temperature, creates an atmosphere that many describe as oppressive and chilling. Cold spots form unexpectedly in hallways and rooms, sending shivers down the spine and leaving an unshakable sense of dread. Certain areas of the building are particularly notorious for paranormal activity. Former patient wards, treatment rooms, and the old infirmary hallways are said to be hotspots for sightings and strange phenomena. Visitors report feeling heavy, oppressive energy in these spaces, as though the emotional residue of past residents has lingered. Stairwells and narrow corridors often amplify unexplained sounds, making faint footsteps or whispers seem much closer than they are. Some urban explorers have recounted seeing figures moving along staircases or standing at the top of a hallway, only to disappear when approached, leaving them questioning whether they ever saw anything at all. The building's history provides some insight into why it may be haunted. The infirmary housed vulnerable individuals who endured illness, poverty, and isolation. Patients often faced long, monotonous days, suffering both physically and emotionally. Many never left the infirmary alive, passing away quietly in their rooms or communal wards. Paranormal researchers suggest that intense emotions, fear, sadness, and pain can leave residual energy behind, imprinting itself on a location for decades. Harrison County Infirmary, with its long history of suffering and hardship, is believed to be a prime example of such residual hauntings. Witnesses often describe seeing figures performing ordinary tasks, as if trapped in a perpetual loop of life within the infirmary. Some report glimpsing patients sitting at tables, walking through hallways, or standing near treatment rooms. Others have encountered figures that appear to be staff, tending to invisible residents or moving about the building in the way they would have during its operation. These fleeting moments, brief as they may be, leave a lasting impression, making it clear to many visitors that the building is not simply abandoned, it's still inhabited, at least in spirit. In addition to visual phenomena, the infirmary is known for producing unexplained tactile experiences. People often report feeling touches or brushes on their skin, as if unseen hands are moving past them in empty rooms. Some have described the sensation of being gently pulled or nudged, prompting an instinctive sense of alarm. These experiences are often accompanied by a heightened sense of awareness, as though the building itself is alive, reacting to intruders or visitors with a quiet, persistent presence. Paranormal investigators frequently return to the Harrison County Infirmary to document its activity. EMF readings, temperature anomalies, and electronic voice phenomena have all been recorded within the building. While skeptics may argue that structural decay and natural acoustics account for some experiences, the consistency of witness reports over time suggests that the building harbors something beyond the ordinary. The convergence of history, human suffering, and strange phenomena make Harrison County Infirmary a focal point for those seeking to experience the supernatural. Today, Harrison County Infirmary stands as a haunting reminder of Ohio's past. Its abandoned halls, overgrown grounds, and crumbling structures serve as both a historical site and a chilling destination for ghost hunters. From shadowy figures and unexplained footsteps to sudden cold spots and whispered voices, the building continues to captivate and unnerve all who enter. The infirmary is a place where history and the supernatural intertwine, a silent testament to the lives once lived and the spirits that may never have left. Even decades after its closure, the Harrison County Infirmary remains a place of mystery and fear. Those who walk its halls encounter not only the remnants of a bygone institution, but also the lingering echoes of the suffering, despair, and humanity that define its past. The building stands as a chilling monument to the souls who once called it home, a site where the boundary between the living and the dead feels impossibly thin, and the past refuses to remain silent. Piqua State Hospital, located in Piqua, Ohio, opened its doors in the early 1900s as a sprawling facility designed to care for the mentally ill. The hospital's campus was extensive, with multiple patient wards, administrative buildings, treatment centers, and recreational areas, all intended to create a self-contained environment for care and rehabilitation. Despite its ambitious design, life inside Piqua State Hospital was far from serene. Overcrowding, limited resources, and the era's rudimentary understanding of mental health made daily life challenging for both patients and staff. Patients endured long stays, sometimes spanning decades, while staff struggled to maintain order in an environment that could often become tense and unpredictable. The hospital was known for its large patient population, and the sheer number of individuals living within its walls contributed to a complex social and emotional environment. Stories from former staff recount the strain of caring for so many patients with limited personnel, alongside the emotional toll of witnessing suffering and death on a daily basis. Patients experienced both the monotony of institutional life and the emotional weight of isolation. While staff worked under strict routines and often faced difficult and morally taxing situations, these intense human experiences, compounded over years, are said to have left an enduring mark on the hospital, one that continues to manifest in the form of paranormal activity. After the hospital's closure, the Piqua State Hospital buildings fell into neglect and decay. Windows were boarded, roofs deteriorated, and nature slowly reclaimed the expansive grounds. The once orderly halls and well-maintained courtyards became overgrown with weeds, and the buildings took on an eerie, abandoned appearance. Despite this decay, or perhaps because of it, the hospital became a magnet for urban explorers, paranormal investigators, and thrill-seekers. Its reputation for haunting grew as reports of shadowy figures, cold spots, and unexplained noises began to circulate among those daring enough to explore the site. Visitors to the hospital often report seeing shadowy figures moving through hallways or standing at the edges of their vision. These apparitions are sometimes described as faint silhouettes of patients, wandering silently, as if trapped in a moment from the past. Some appear dressed in old-fashioned patient gowns or staff uniforms, moving through the decaying buildings in ways that mimic life decades ago. Although the figures rarely interact directly, their presence is often palpable, creating a sense of being watched or followed that can be deeply unsettling for those inside. Unexplained sounds are another common occurrence at Piqua State Hospital. Footsteps echo through empty corridors, doors open or slam without explanation, and faint whispers drift through abandoned rooms. Some visitors report hearing voices calling out names or the murmurs of conversations that seem to have no source. The combination of auditory phenomena and environmental anomalies, such as sudden drops in temperature, contributes to the hospital's eerie atmosphere. Cold spots appear unexpectedly, sending chills through visitors and leaving a lingering sense of discomfort. Certain areas of the hospital are particularly known for paranormal activity. Former patient wards, isolation rooms, and treatment areas are often described as hotspots. The design of the buildings amplifies the haunting experience. Long hallways, high ceilings, and narrow staircases create echoes and shadows that enhance the perception of movement or presence. Many explorers have recounted seeing figures pacing corridors, standing silently near beds, or gliding along stairwells, only to vanish when approached. The impression is that the hospital is alive with echoes of the past, preserving memories of the countless lives that once passed through its halls. The concept suggests that intense emotional experiences, suffering, fear, and sadness can leave an imprint on a location, manifesting later as apparitions, sounds, or other unexplained phenomena. The hospital's long history of hardship, combined with the isolation and treatment practices of its era, may have contributed to an environment rich with lingering energy. Many visitors describe a pervasive sense of oppression, as if the walls themselves hold the memory of pain and struggle. In addition to visual and auditory phenomena, some visitors report tactile experiences. They describe feeling brushes against their skin, sudden changes in air pressure, or an almost imperceptible tug, as if an unseen presence is nearby. These moments are often accompanied by an instinctive feeling of being watched or followed, reinforcing the impression that Pica State Hospital is more than a static ruin. The building's atmosphere seems to react to human presence, creating tension, fear, and anticipation among those who explore it. Despite decades of abandonment, the hospital continues to fascinate and frighten those who encounter it. Its crumbling walls, overgrown grounds, and decaying interiors are both historically significant and hauntingly evocative. Visitors come to witness its spectral residents, experience the chilling sounds of the past, and confront the heavy atmosphere left by years of human suffering. The combination of architectural grandeur and historical hardship creates an environment that is as unsettling as it is compelling. Pica State Hospital stands as a testament to Ohio's history of mental health care, a place where architecture, history, and lingering spirits converge. Shadowy figures, cold spots, and unexplained sounds remind visitors that the past is not entirely gone. The hospital remains a site where memory, emotion, and spectral presence intertwine, allowing those who enter to experience a haunting that lingers long after they leave. Even today, the echoes of life, suffering, and death at Pica State Hospital continue to resonate, ensuring that the site remains one of Ohio's most chilling and enigmatic haunted locations. Middletown State Hospital, located in Middletown, Ohio, was established in the mid-1800s as a facility designed to care for the mentally ill. Originally envisioned as a place of refuge and treatment, the hospital expanded rapidly over the decades to accommodate an ever-growing patient population. By the early 20th century, it had become one of the region's largest mental health institutions, with multiple wings, treatment halls, and administrative buildings sprawling across the property. Despite its size and ambition, the hospital struggled with overcrowding, limited resources, and the societal stigmas attached to mental illness, creating an environment that was as challenging for staff as it was for the patients. Life inside Middletown State Hospital was often harsh and regimented. Patients endured long days under strict routines, while treatments ranged from the conventional to the controversial. Stories from former staff and historical records reveal a complex and often troubling environment. Medical procedures that would now be considered unethical, isolation practices, and punitive measures imposed on those deemed difficult or unmanageable. Patients frequently experienced neglect, and many passed away within the walls of the hospital, their deaths recorded with little ceremony. Over time, the accumulation of suffering, fear, and unfulfilled lives created an invisible weight upon the building, one that is said to persist even today. After the hospital's closure, the Middletown State Hospital fell into disrepair. Windows were shattered or boarded up, walls began to crumble, and the once meticulously maintained grounds became overgrown with weeds. The vast buildings, now empty and decaying, became a magnet for urban explorers, paranormal investigators, and thrill-seekers drawn to the stories of hauntings and eerie occurrences. Visitors frequently describe an unsettling energy that pervades the site, as if the very walls retain the memories and emotions of those who lived and died there. Reports of paranormal activity at Middletown State Hospital are numerous and varied. Shadowy figures have been seen moving silently through hallways, sometimes pausing at doorways or gliding along corridors before vanishing entirely. Witnesses often describe these apparitions as faint silhouettes, appearing in the form of patients in outdated clothing or staff members performing their duties long after death. Many who encounter these figures report a profound sense of being watched, as if unseen eyes are tracking their movements throughout the building. Unexplained sounds are another hallmark of the hospital's haunted reputation. Visitors frequently report hearing footsteps echoing through empty corridors, the soft clanging of doors, and whispers that seem to emanate from nowhere. Occasionally, faint cries or murmurs can be heard, suggesting conversations or lamentations of those long gone. Some explorers have recounted the unsettling experience of hearing the shuffle of shoes across hallways or the scraping of furniture in rooms left untouched for decades. These sounds, combined with sudden and inexplicable drops in temperature, create a chilling atmosphere that leaves many visitors on edge. Certain areas of the hospital are particularly notorious for activity. Patient wards, isolation rooms, and treatment halls often serve as focal points for sightings and strange occurrences. Narrow staircases, high ceilings, and long hallways amplify echoes and shadows, making even ordinary sounds appear menacing. Witnesses frequently report seeing figures pacing corridors or standing silently near rooms where tragic events are known to have occurred. These experiences suggest that the hospital may hold more than just the memory of those who passed it, may retain a lingering presence, an imprint of intense emotions and unresolved trauma. Paranormal researchers often cite Middletown State Hospital as an example of residual haunting, a phenomenon in which strong emotional experiences leave a lasting imprint on a location. The suffering, fear, and despair endured by patients over decades may have left an energy that continues to manifest as apparitions, cold spots, and unexplained noises. Visitors often describe feelings of oppression or melancholy, as if the collective sorrow of the hospital's past residents still lingers in the air. This pervasive sense of unease is often the first indication that the site is not entirely abandoned. Some visitors also report tactile experiences, such as the sensation of being brushed against by an invisible presence or feeling sudden pressure on their shoulders. Others describe the unnerving feeling of being followed or the sense of unseen eyes watching from the darkness. These interactions, while fleeting, reinforce the idea that Middletown State Hospital is more than a mere ruin. It is a space where the boundary between the living and the dead feels remarkably thin. Even after decades of abandonment, the hospital continues to draw attention for both historical and paranormal reasons. Its decaying structures, overgrown grounds, and long corridors serve as a haunting reminder of the lives once contained within its walls. The convergence of history, human suffering, and spectral reports makes Middletown State Hospital a compelling destination for those interested in the supernatural, as well as for those who wish to understand the human cost of institutional mental health care in the past. Middletown State Hospital remains a chilling monument to Ohio's history, its haunting legacy etched into every corridor, ward, and abandoned room. From shadowy figures and unexplained footsteps to sudden drops in temperature and eerie whispers, the building continues to captivate and frighten those who dare to explore it. The hospital is not just a relic of history, it's a place where echoes of the past refuse to fade, a haunting reminder of lives marked by hardship, despair, and the lingering presence of spirits that may never truly rest. Youngstown State Hospital, located in Youngstown, Ohio, opened its doors in the late 1800s as a facility dedicated to the treatment of the mentally ill. Designed to accommodate a large patient population, the hospital expanded rapidly over the decades, becoming one of the region's most prominent mental health institutions. Its sprawling campus included patient wards, administrative offices, treatment rooms, and recreational areas, all intended to provide a self-contained environment for care. However, despite the hospital's ambitious design, life within its walls was often grim. Overcrowding, understaffing, and a limited understanding of mental illness during that era created harsh conditions for both patients and staff. Patients at Youngstown State Hospital were subjected to strict routines, confined schedules, and treatments that ranged from conventional care to experimental procedures. Many endured long-term stays, often lasting decades, and some never left alive. The hospital's wards were filled with the sounds of suffering, from cries of distress to whispered conversations, as patients struggled with illness, isolation, and the emotional weight of institutional life. Staff members, while often dedicated to their duties, faced the daily challenge of maintaining order and providing care in an environment that was both emotionally and physically demanding. The combination of human suffering and institutional rigor left an indelible mark on the hospital, a legacy that is said to persist in the form of paranormal activity. After the hospital's closure, the Youngstown State Hospital fell into disrepair. Buildings were left abandoned, windows shattered or boarded, and the once maintained grounds became overgrown with weeds and tangled vegetation. Despite the decay, or perhaps because of it, the site attracted urban explorers, paranormal investigators, and thrill-seekers drawn to stories of hauntings. Visitors frequently report a palpable sense of unease, as if the walls themselves remember the countless lives that passed through the hospital. The air feels heavy with residual energy, creating an atmosphere that is both oppressive and chilling. Many witnesses describe seeing shadowy figures throughout the abandoned buildings. These apparitions are often reported as faint silhouettes resembling patients in old-fashioned hospital gowns or staff members performing their duties long after death. Figures may appear at the edges of vision, walking silently through hallways or pausing in rooms before vanishing entirely. The presence of these figures is often accompanied by a feeling of being watched, creating a sense of tension that persists even in brief encounters. Some explorers have claimed to see multiple figures at once, moving through the halls as if carrying out the routines of daily hospital life decades ago. Unexplained sounds are another hallmark of Youngstown State Hospital's haunted reputation. Visitors frequently report hearing footsteps echoing along empty corridors, the clanging of doors, and faint whispers that seem to emanate from nowhere. Occasionally, mournful cries or low murmurs can be heard, giving the impression of conversations or lamentations from long-past residents. Doors may open or close on their own, and the creaking of floorboards under invisible weight is a common report among those who wander the abandoned halls. These auditory phenomena, combined with sudden drops in temperature, amplify the chilling effect and reinforce the hospital's reputation as a place of lingering spirits. Certain areas of the hospital are particularly notorious for paranormal activity. Former patient wards, isolation rooms, and treatment halls are often cited as hotspots, where encounters with shadowy figures or strange sounds occur with greater frequency. The architectural design of the building's long hallways, narrow staircases, and high ceilings intensifies the eerie experience, making ordinary noises seem amplified and shadows appear more menacing. Many visitors have recounted seeing figures pacing corridors, standing silently near beds, or moving along stairwells before disappearing when approached, leaving an impression of a place caught between the past and the present. This phenomenon occurs when intense emotional experiences, such as fear, suffering, or despair, leave an imprint on a location, which can later manifest as apparitions, sounds, or other unexplained occurrences. The hospital's history of overcrowding, experimental treatments, and prolonged confinement provides a fertile ground for such lingering energy. Visitors often report feeling heavy, oppressive energy, as if the collective suffering of past patients is still present in the air. Some individuals also report tactile experiences within the hospital. They describe sudden brushes against their skin, the sensation of an unseen presence standing nearby, or a subtle tug as if someone or something is observing them. These encounters, while fleeting, create an immediate sense of vulnerability and heighten the overall feeling that the hospital is not merely a static ruin but a space haunted by its own history. Even decades after its closure, Youngstown State Hospital continues to draw attention for both historical and paranormal reasons. Its decaying halls, overgrown grounds, and abandoned structures stand as a chilling reminder of the lives that once occupied the space. The combination of architectural grandeur, historical hardship, and lingering spectral activity makes it a compelling destination for those interested in the supernatural. Youngstown State Hospital remains a haunting testament to Ohio's past, its abandoned corridors and crumbling wards echoing with the memory of those who suffered, lived, and died within its walls. Shadowy figures, unexplained noises, and sudden cold spots remind visitors that the past has not entirely faded. The hospital is more than a relic. It is a place where history and the supernatural converge, allowing the presence of spirits to linger, making it one of Ohio's most chilling and enigmatic haunted locations. Marietta State Hospital, located in Marietta, Ohio, was established in the early 1900s as a sprawling facility designed to care for the mentally ill. With its expansive campus, multiple patient wards, treatment buildings, and administrative offices, the hospital aimed to provide a comprehensive environment for medical care and rehabilitation. However, despite its size and ambition, life inside Marietta State Hospital was often challenging for both patients and staff. Overcrowding, limited resources, and the rudimentary understanding of mental health at the time created a tense and oppressive atmosphere that would leave an enduring mark on the facility. Patients at Marietta State Hospital lived under strict routines, confined to regimented schedules, and subjected to treatments ranging from conventional care to experimental methods that reflected the era's limited knowledge of psychiatry. Many patients remained at the hospital for years, some for decades, while others never left alive. Accounts from former staff and historical records indicate that the hospital was a place of both care and hardship, where suffering and fear were constant companions. The emotional weight of long-term confinement, combined with the stress experienced by overworked staff, contributed to a lingering sense of unease that many believe still permeates the buildings today. After its closure, Marietta State Hospital fell into a state of decay. Windows were boarded up or shattered, roofs deteriorated, and the once manicured grounds became overgrown with weeds and vegetation. The sprawling campus, once bustling with activity, became eerily silent, drawing the attention of urban explorers, paranormal investigators, and thrill seekers. Visitors quickly began reporting experiences that suggested the hospital was far from empty. A sense of unease, described as oppressive or heavy, often greets those who step onto the grounds, creating an immediate awareness that the past presence of the hospital's residents has not entirely faded. Many visitors to Marietta State Hospital report seeing shadowy figures moving through hallways and rooms. These apparitions are often described as faint silhouettes resembling former patients or staff members, dressed in clothing typical of the early 20th century. Witnesses have recounted observing figures pacing corridors, standing silently at doorways, or appearing momentarily before vanishing when approached. The figures are generally non-interactive, yet their presence is intensely felt, often leaving an impression of being watched or followed. Some explorers claim that the spirits repeat actions from the past, walking as though continuing their daily routines, a residual echo of lives once lived within the hospital. Unexplained sounds are another frequent occurrence at Marietta State Hospital. Visitors report hearing footsteps in empty corridors, doors opening or slamming shut without cause, and faint voices that seem to drift from nowhere. Occasionally, soft cries or whispers can be heard, giving the impression of conversations or lamentations from patients long gone. These auditory phenomena are often accompanied by sudden drops in temperature, creating a chilling effect that reinforces the hospital's reputation as a haunted location. Even the creaking of floorboards can feel unnervingly deliberate, as if the building itself is moving under invisible weight. Certain areas of the hospital are particularly noted for paranormal activity. Patient wards, isolation rooms, and treatment areas tend to be hotspots, where sightings and unexplained occurrences happen with greater frequency. The architectural design, with long corridors, high ceilings, and narrow staircases, amplifies the sense of unease. Shadows appear larger and more menacing, while ordinary sounds are echoed and distorted, making each step feel amplified and ominous. Visitors frequently report glimpsing figures gliding along hallways or standing silently near beds, only to disappear when approached. The impression is that the hospital exists in a space where the past and present overlap, with traces of former residents lingering in the environment. Paranormal enthusiasts often classify Marietta State Hospital as a location with residual haunting. This type of haunting occurs when intense emotional experiences, fear, suffering, and sadness leave a lasting imprint on a place, which then manifests as apparitions, sounds, or other phenomena. The hospital's history of overcrowding, long-term confinement, and experimental treatments provides fertile ground for such lingering energy. Visitors often describe an overwhelming sense of oppression or melancholy, as if the collective sorrow of former patients continues to hang in the air. In addition to visual and auditory phenomena, some visitors report tactile experiences. They describe sudden touches, brushes against the skin, or a subtle sensation of being followed. Many also report feeling cold air when no source exists, or an invisible presence hovering nearby. These encounters, while fleeting, amplify the impression that Marietta State Hospital is not merely a decaying building, but a site imbued with the residual energy of its past inhabitants, even decades after its closure. Marietta State Hospital continues to fascinate both history enthusiasts and those drawn to the paranormal. Its decaying structures, overgrown grounds, and long-abandoned corridors serve as a haunting reminder of the lives once contained within its walls. The combination of architectural grandeur, historical hardship, and lingering spectral activity makes it a compelling destination for those curious about Ohio's darker history. Marietta State Hospital remains a chilling monument to the past. Its abandoned wards and crumbling buildings echo with the memories of suffering, care, and long-forgotten lives. Shadowy figures, unexplained footsteps, and sudden cold spots remind visitors that the past has not entirely faded. The hospital stands as a place where history and the supernatural converge, a haunting testament to the enduring presence of spirits that continue to roam its halls. Zanesville State Hospital, located in Zanesville, Ohio, opened its doors in the mid-1800s as a facility dedicated to the care and treatment of the mentally ill. From its inception, the hospital was designed to accommodate a large population of patients, with multiple wings, treatment areas, and administrative buildings spread across an expansive campus. Despite its ambitious architecture and well-intentioned goals, the realities of overcrowding, limited medical knowledge, and the harsh conditions of institutional life made the hospital a place of suffering and strict discipline. Over time, the walls of Zanesville State Hospital became witness to countless stories of pain, despair, and loss, leaving an energy that many now believe lingers long after the facility's closure. Life inside the hospital was often grim. Patients were subjected to rigid schedules and treatment regimens that ranged from conventional care to experimental procedures, some of which would be considered unethical by modern standards. Many residents spent years, even decades, confined within its walls, while some never left alive. Staff members, despite their dedication, faced the constant strain of maintaining order and administering care in an environment that was overcrowded and under-resourced. The combination of emotional turmoil, strict routines, and physical confinement created a heavy atmosphere, one that reportedly left an imprint on the very fabric of the hospital. After its closure, Zanesville State Hospital fell into a state of decay. The buildings, once filled with activity and purpose, were abandoned, with shattered windows, crumbling walls, and overgrown grounds becoming the norm. Yet, despite its dilapidated state, the hospital drew attention from urban explorers, paranormal enthusiasts, and thrill-seekers intrigued by tales of hauntings and eerie occurrences. Visitors often report an immediate sense of unease upon entering the grounds, describing the air as heavy or oppressive, as if the emotions and experiences of the hospital's past residents are still somehow present. Reports of paranormal activity at Zanesville State Hospital are numerous and varied. Many witnesses describe shadowy figures moving through hallways and rooms, often appearing as faint silhouettes resembling former patients or staff members. These figures may glide silently through corridors, pause at doorways, or stand motionless before disappearing entirely when approached. Visitors frequently describe the feeling of being watched, sometimes sensing a presence following them as they move through the abandoned buildings. The apparitions are often fleeting, but leave a lasting impression, reinforcing the notion that the spirits of past residents remain tethered to the hospital. Auditory phenomena are another common occurrence. Visitors report hearing footsteps echoing along empty hallways, the soft clanging of doors, and whispers that appear to come from nowhere. Occasionally, mournful cries or low murmurs can be heard, giving the impression of conversations or lamentations from long-deceased patients. Doors may open or close without explanation, and the creaking of floorboards often coincides with the sensation of an unseen presence. These experiences, paired with sudden drops in temperature, contribute to the chilling reputation of the hospital and create an atmosphere that is both tense and unnerving. Certain areas of the hospital are particularly noted for heightened activity. Patient wards, treatment rooms, and isolation areas are frequently cited as hotspots, where sightings and strange occurrences happen with greater frequency. The architectural design, long corridors, narrow staircases, and high ceilings intensifies shadows and amplifies sound, making each step or creak of the floorboards feel ominous. Witnesses often recount seeing figures pacing hallways, standing silently near beds, or disappearing along stairwells, as if the routines of hospital life are still being enacted in spectral form. Paranormal investigators often describe Zanesville State Hospital as a classic example of residual haunting, where the intense emotional experiences of the past leave an imprint on a location. The hospital's history of overcrowding, long-term confinement, and experimental treatments created an environment of fear, despair, and suffering, which may now manifest as apparitions, unexplained sounds, or sudden shifts in temperature. Visitors frequently report feeling a heavy, oppressive energy, as if the collective sorrow of those who lived and died there continues to linger. Some encounters are tactile, with visitors describing brushes against the skin, the sensation of an unseen presence standing nearby, or subtle nudges in empty hallways. Cold spots appear without cause, and many report the eerie sensation of being followed or observed. These physical manifestations, though fleeting, reinforce the idea that Zanesville State Hospital is more than just an abandoned structure. It is a place imbued with the emotional residue of its past inhabitants. Even decades after its closure, Zanesville State Hospital continues to draw attention for both its historical significance and paranormal reputation. Its decaying buildings, overgrown grounds, and abandoned corridors stand as a haunting reminder of the lives once contained within its walls. The combination of architectural grandeur, historical hardship, and lingering spectral activity makes it a compelling destination for those intrigued by the supernatural, as well as for those wishing to explore the human history of institutional mental health care. Zanesville State Hospital remains a chilling testament to Ohio's past. Its empty corridors and deteriorating buildings echo with the memories of suffering, care, and unresolved lives. Shadowy figures, unexplained noises, and sudden cold spots serve as reminders that the past has not entirely faded. The hospital stands as a place where history and the supernatural converge, a haunting monument to the enduring presence of spirits that continue to roam its abandoned halls. Lancaster State Hospital, located in Lancaster, Ohio, was established in the late 1800s as a treatment facility for the mentally ill. Designed with the best intentions of its era, the hospital sought to provide care and rehabilitation within a structured environment. Its sprawling campus included multiple patient wards, treatment rooms, administrative offices, and recreational areas. However, despite these ambitious designs, the hospital quickly became known for its overcrowded conditions and the limited understanding of mental illness that often resulted in harsh or experimental treatments. Over the decades, Lancaster State Hospital became a place where both suffering and hope coexisted, leaving behind a legacy that many believe still lingers in its abandoned halls. Life inside the hospital was challenging for everyone involved. Patients were confined to strict routines, often remaining within the hospital for years or even decades. Treatments ranged from conventional therapies to experimental procedures, some of which would be considered unethical by today's standards. The long-term confinement, coupled with the emotional strain of institutional life, created a tense and oppressive environment. Staff members, despite their dedication, faced the constant challenge of managing overcrowded wards and ensuring patient care with limited resources. The emotional weight of these experiences is said to have left an imprint on the hospital itself, a presence that some now interpret as paranormal activity. After its closure, Lancaster State Hospital fell into a state of disrepair. The once bustling campus became quiet and overgrown, with broken windows, crumbling walls, and decaying roofs creating an eerie, abandoned atmosphere. Despite its deterioration, or perhaps because of it, the hospital became a magnet for urban explorers, paranormal investigators, and thrill-seekers, drawn by stories of hauntings and unexplained events. Visitors often report an immediate sense of unease upon stepping onto the grounds, as if the accumulated emotions of the hospital's past residents still linger in the air. Paranormal reports at Lancaster State Hospital are varied and numerous. Many visitors describe seeing shadowy figures moving through corridors or rooms, often appearing as faint silhouettes of former patients or staff members. Witnesses have recounted seeing figures pacing the hallways, standing silently at doorways, or vanishing when approached. The sense of being watched is frequently reported, with some visitors claiming that they feel an invisible presence following them through the empty halls. These encounters, while often fleeting, leave a lasting impression and contribute to the hospital's reputation as one of Ohio's most haunted locations. Unexplained sounds are another hallmark of Lancaster State Hospital. Visitors often report hearing footsteps echoing along empty corridors, doors opening or slamming without explanation, and faint whispers that seem to come from nowhere. Occasionally, mournful cries or low murmurs are heard, giving the impression of conversations or laments from those long gone. These auditory experiences are often accompanied by sudden drops in temperature, creating an unnerving atmosphere that amplifies the sense of fear and tension. Even the subtle creaking of floorboards can feel deliberate, as if the building itself is alive with the memories of its past occupants. Certain areas of the hospital are particularly noted for paranormal activity. Patient wards, isolation rooms, and treatment areas are often cited as hotspots, where sightings and strange occurrences happen more frequently. The architectural design, with long hallways, high ceilings, and narrow staircases, intensifies shadows and echoes, making each sound more pronounced and every movement feel magnified. Many visitors have reported seeing figures moving along corridors, standing silently near beds, or disappearing along stairwells, as if the routines of hospital life continue to play out in spectral form. Paranormal enthusiasts often describe Lancaster State Hospital as a site of residual haunting. This type of haunting occurs when the emotional energy of a location, often generated by intense experiences such as fear, pain, or despair, is left imprinted on the environment. In Lancaster State Hospital's case, decades of overcrowding, confinement, and experimental treatments provide a fertile ground for such energy. Visitors frequently describe a sense of heaviness or oppressive melancholy, as though the collective sorrow of the patients continues to linger in the empty halls. Some experiences are tactile, with witnesses reporting the sensation of being touched by unseen hands, brushes against the skin, or subtle nudges in empty corridors. Cold spots often appear without cause, and many describe the unnerving feeling of an unseen presence observing them. These physical sensations, combined with visual and auditory phenomena, make Lancaster State Hospital feel far more than just an abandoned building. It becomes a place where the past continues to assert itself in the present. Even decades after its closure, Lancaster State Hospital continues to draw attention for both historical and paranormal reasons. Its abandoned structures and overgrown grounds serve as a haunting reminder of the lives once contained within its walls. The combination of architectural grandeur, historical hardship, and lingering spectral presence makes it a compelling destination for those interested in the supernatural, as well as for those who wish to understand the human history of institutional mental health care. Lancaster State Hospital remains a chilling testament to Ohio's past. Its decaying halls and empty rooms echo with memories of suffering, care, and unresolved lives. Shadowy figures, unexplained noises, and sudden cold spots serve as reminders that the past has not entirely faded. The hospital stands as a place where history and the supernatural converge, a haunting monument to the enduring presence of spirits that continue to roam its abandoned halls. Canton State Hospital, located in Canton, Ohio, opened its doors in the early 1900s as a sprawling facility designed to care for the mentally ill. With a campus that included multiple patient wards, administrative buildings, treatment areas, and recreational spaces, the hospital was envisioned as a self-contained community for patients and staff. Yet, despite its size and ambition, life inside Canton State Hospital was often harsh and oppressive. Overcrowding, limited resources, and the experimental nature of some treatments created an environment fraught with tension and suffering. Decades later, even after the hospital's closure, many believe that the echoes of these experiences linger, giving rise to numerous reports of paranormal activity. Patients at Canton State Hospital endured long-term confinement, often spending years or decades within its walls. The treatments they received ranged from conventional psychiatric care to experimental methods that today would be considered controversial or unethical. Some patients were subjected to electroconvulsive therapy, isolation, or other practices intended to control or modify behavior, while staff members endeavored to provide care. The emotional and physical stress of maintaining order in such an environment was immense. The combination of patient suffering, staff strain, and the oppressive atmosphere of institutional life has been cited as a possible origin of the paranormal phenomena that many visitors report today. Following its closure, Canton State Hospital fell into a state of decay. The once bustling campus, filled with the sounds of daily hospital life, became eerily silent. Windows were broken or boarded up, roofs and walls began to deteriorate, and the grounds became overgrown with weeds and shrubs. Despite the physical decline, or perhaps because of it, the hospital drew attention from urban explorers, paranormal enthusiasts, and thrill-seekers drawn to stories of ghosts and unexplained occurrences. Visitors frequently describe an immediate sense of unease when approaching the hospital, as if the collective memories and energies of its former residents still linger in the air. Reports of paranormal activity at Canton State Hospital are numerous and varied. Many witnesses describe shadowy figures moving through hallways, often appearing as faint silhouettes resembling former patients or staff members. These apparitions are seen pacing corridors, standing silently in doorways, or disappearing when approached. Visitors often report a feeling of being watched, an invisible presence tracking their movements as they navigate the empty buildings. While these encounters are fleeting, they leave a lasting impression and contribute to the hospital's reputation as one of Ohio's most haunted locations. Auditory phenomena are a frequent occurrence as well. Explorers and visitors report hearing footsteps echoing through empty hallways, doors opening or closing without explanation, and faint whispers that seem to emanate from nowhere. Occasionally, mournful cries or indistinct conversations are heard, giving the impression that past residents continue to communicate or express their suffering. These sounds are often accompanied by sudden drops in temperature, creating a chilling effect that amplifies the feeling of dread. Even ordinary creaks of floorboards or the wind through broken windows can take on an unsettling quality, making visitors hyper-aware of their surroundings. Certain areas of Canton State Hospital are considered hotspots for paranormal activity. Patient wards, treatment rooms, and isolation areas tend to be the most active, where sightings and strange occurrences happen with greater frequency. The architectural layout, with long corridors, high ceilings, and narrow stairwells, enhances shadows and echoes, intensifying the impression of a presence lingering in the space. Visitors have reported seeing figures glide silently along hallways, stand at the foot of beds, or vanish on staircases, as if the routines of hospital life are continuing in spectral form. Many paranormal investigators describe Canton State Hospital as a site of residual haunting, where intense emotional experiences, fear, suffering, and despair have left an imprint on the environment. The decades of overcrowding, strict confinement, and experimental treatments are believed to have created a lasting energy, which now manifests as shadowy figures, unexplained noises, and sudden cold spots. Visitors frequently report a sense of oppression or melancholy, a weight that seems to press down in certain areas, suggesting that the emotional residue of the past is still present. Tactile encounters are also reported by those who explore the hospital. Witnesses describe sudden touches, brushes against the skin, or a subtle pressure, as if an unseen presence is nearby. Cold spots appear without cause, and many report feeling followed or observed in hallways, devoid of life. These experiences, combined with visual and auditory phenomena, contribute to the belief that Canton State Hospital is far more than an abandoned structure. It is a location imbued with the echoes of past suffering. Even decades after its closure, Canton State Hospital continues to attract those interested in history and the paranormal. Its abandoned buildings, overgrown grounds, and decaying corridors serve as a haunting reminder of the lives once confined within. The combination of architectural grandeur, historical significance, and lingering supernatural energy makes it a compelling destination for those drawn to haunted locations and the darker aspects of Ohio's history. Canton State Hospital stands as a chilling testament to the past. Its empty corridors and crumbling rooms echo with the memories of suffering, care, and unresolved lives. Shadowy figures, unexplained sounds, and sudden drops in temperature are reminders that the past has not entirely faded. The hospital remains a place where history and the supernatural converge, a haunting monument to the enduring presence of spirits who continue to roam its abandoned halls. Cleveland State Hospital Cemetery, located adjacent to the now abandoned Cleveland State Hospital, stands as a solemn and haunting reminder of the lives that passed through the institution. Established in the late 1800s, the cemetery became the final resting place for countless patients, many of whom lived out their days within the hospital's walls under harsh conditions. The graves are simple, marked by plain stones, and in many cases, only numbers or initials remain to identify those buried. There are no elaborate monuments or statues, only rows upon rows of small markers that speak to the anonymity and neglect many patients faced in life and death. Over time, the cemetery has developed a reputation for paranormal activity, drawing both historians and ghost hunters intrigued by the lingering presence of its former residents. Life at Cleveland State Hospital was challenging, and the patients who ended up in the cemetery often endured long-term confinement and experimental treatments. Many suffered from mental illness at a time when understanding and resources were limited. Overcrowding, strict routines, and invasive procedures created an oppressive environment, leaving deep emotional scars on both patients and staff. For those who died within the institution, burial in the adjacent cemetery offered little dignity. The combination of isolation, suffering, and anonymity has contributed to a pervasive sense of melancholy, one that many visitors now describe as palpable when walking among the graves. The cemetery itself has an eerie, otherworldly quality. Unlike traditional cemeteries, the markers are often worn and unadorned, blending into the surrounding overgrown grass and trees. Fog frequently rolls through the grounds in the early morning or late evening, lending an ethereal atmosphere that amplifies the sense of unease. The symmetry of the graves, coupled with the silence that blankets the site, creates an almost oppressive stillness. Visitors frequently describe feeling watched, as though unseen eyes are tracking their movements among the tombstones. This sensation of being observed is often accompanied by a chill in the air, sudden drops in temperature, or the unexplained rustle of leaves, as if the cemetery itself is alive with the memories of its former inhabitants. Paranormal activity at Cleveland State Hospital Cemetery is widely reported. Some visitors claim to see shadowy figures moving between the gravestones, their forms indistinct but undeniably human in shape. These apparitions often appear at the edges of vision, vanishing when directly observed. Others report hearing faint whispers or murmurs carried on the wind, words that are indistinct but heavy with sorrow. Occasionally, Mournful cries or soft sobbing are heard, as though the spirits are expressing grief for lives lived in confinement and neglect. These auditory experiences, combined with visual phenomena, reinforce the cemetery's reputation as a haunted site. Footsteps are among the most common reported occurrences, echoing along the gravel paths or through the grass, even when no other person is present. Visitors have recounted instances of sudden, inexplicable movements in the corner of their vishuna, fleeting glimpse of a figure standing silently behind a gravestone or gliding across the cemetery. These moments, though brief, leave a lasting impression and often inspire both awe and fear. The sense of an invisible presence is so strong that many choose to walk the grounds in pairs or groups, while others report an instinctive urge to leave after only a short time. Some encounters are tactile in nature. Witnesses have described the sensation of being touched by unseen hands, feeling a cold breath against the neck, or a gentle pressure that follows them as they move through the cemetery. Cold spots are a recurring theme, often appearing near particular graves or along the main pathways. These sudden shifts in temperature are not explained by weather or environment and are frequently cited by paranormal investigators as signs of residual energy from the deceased. Visitors often describe a heavy, oppressive feeling that seems to weigh on the body and spirit, as if the sorrow and suffering of those buried here remain present and palpable. The simplicity and anonymity of the graves amplify the sense of tragedy at Cleveland State Hospital Cemetery. Many of the markers bear only numbers, reflecting the institutional mindset of the era that treated patients as cases rather than individuals. This anonymity has left a lingering emotional imprint, one that may explain the intensity of the reported paranormal activity. Visitors frequently report feeling a connection to the past, as though the spirits are silently urging recognition of the humanity that was denied them in life. Shadowy figures, whispered voices, and inexplicable movements all reinforce the sense that the cemetery is more than a final resting place. It is a space where history, emotion, and unresolved energy converge. Certain areas of the cemetery are particularly noted for heightened activity. Sections containing older graves, or those associated with patients who endured longer periods of confinement, are often cited as hotspots. Investigators have reported higher levels of electromagnetic fluctuations in these areas, alongside more frequent sightings of apparitions and unusual sounds. The alignment of the graves, combined with the natural layout of the cemetery trees, slopes, and pathways, creates spaces where shadows and echoes are amplified, intensifying the impression of ghostly presence. Even decades after the closure of Cleveland State Hospital, the cemetery remains a place of fascination and unease. Historians, paranormal investigators, and curious visitors continue to explore the grounds, drawn by the stories of shadowy figures, disembodied voices, and cold spots. The cemetery's stark simplicity and haunting atmosphere serve as a powerful reminder of the lives once contained within the hospital and the enduring presence of those who passed without recognition or ceremony. Cleveland State Hospital Cemetery stands as a chilling testament to Ohio's history of mental health care. Its rows of numbered gravestones, overgrown paths, and silent trees echo with the memories of suffering, care, and unresolved lives. Shadowy figures, whispered voices, and sudden cold spots serve as reminders that the past has not entirely faded. For those who venture here, the cemetery is not just a resting place for the dead. It is a haunting site where the spirits of the hospital as former residents continue to linger, quietly observing and eternally roaming among the tombstones. Columbus State Hospital Cemetery, located adjacent to the now-defunct Columbus State Hospital, stands as a solemn and haunting relic of Ohio's history of mental health care. Established in the mid-1800s, the cemetery became the final resting place for countless patients who lived and died within the hospital's imposing walls. Unlike traditional cemeteries with ornate headstones and memorials, Columbus State Hospital Cemetery is characterized by its simplicity. Most graves are marked with plain stones, often bearing only numbers or initials, a reflection of the era's institutional approach to patient care. The anonymity of these markers speaks to the forgotten lives that once passed through the hospital, and over time, the site has developed a reputation for paranormal activity, drawing both historians and thrill-seekers eager to witness its chilling aura firsthand. Life inside Columbus State Hospital was far from easy. Patients endured long-term confinement, frequently under strict supervision and regimented routines. Treatments ranged from the conventional to the experimental, and the hospital became known for practices that would now be considered controversial, including isolation and electroconvulsive therapy. Overcrowding and the emotional strain of institutional life only intensified the suffering of those confined. Many of the patients interred in the cemetery had lived their final years in quiet despair, with little contact from family or community. For these individuals, the cemetery became their only connection to the outside world, a resting place devoid of ceremony, recognition, or comfort. The cemetery itself has an unsettling atmosphere. Overgrown grass, aging trees, and fog that drifts across the grounds in the early morning or late evening create an eerie, almost otherworldly landscape. Silence dominates the space, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves or distant bird call. Visitors often report a heavy feeling upon entering, a sense of oppressive stillness that seems to press on both body and mind. It is as though the weight of decades of suffering, confinement, and death has been imprinted upon the grounds. Many describe a chilling sensation, a drop in temperature that seems to follow them along the cemetery's pathways, heightening the sense of unease. Paranormal reports at Columbus State Hospital Cemetery are numerous and varied. Shadowy figures are frequently sighted between gravestones, moving slowly or standing still before vanishing when approached. These apparitions are often human in shape, resembling former patients or staff, though their faces remain indistinct. Some visitors report seeing figures gliding along the rows of graves, as if retracing familiar paths from long ago. Others describe fleeting glimpses of movement at the corner of their vision shapes that disappear before they can be fully observed. Auditory phenomena are a common feature of the cemetery's hauntings. Witnesses frequently report faint whispers, indistinct murmurs, or soft cries carried on the wind. These sounds are often accompanied by the sensation that someone or something is nearby, watching silently. Footsteps are another recurring experience, echoing across the gravel paths or the uneven grass, even when no one else is present. On occasion, mournful wails or low, haunting moans are heard, giving the impression that the spirits of former patients continue to express their sorrow. Tactile sensations have also been reported. Visitors often feel sudden touches, a brush against the skin, or an inexplicable pressure that seems to follow them through the grounds. Cold spots appear sporadically, particularly near older graves, intensifying the eerie experience. Many describe a sense of being observed, a quiet, almost imperceptible presence that lingers even when the cemetery appears entirely empty. These sensations combine with visual and auditory phenomena to create a deeply unsettling environment that draws both fascination and fear. The cemetery's layout enhances its haunting character. Rows of simple gravestones stretch into the distance, punctuated by overgrown paths and clusters of trees that cast long shadows. The uniformity of the graves, combined with the isolation of the site, amplifies the feeling of emptiness and abandonment. Certain sections of the cemetery, particularly those containing older graves, are considered hotspots for paranormal activity. Investigators often report heightened electromagnetic readings, increased sightings of apparitions, and more frequent sounds of footsteps and whispers in these areas. Historical context deepens the cemetery's eerie reputation. Many of the patients buried here were confined for long periods and died without family or visitors. The combination of institutional neglect, emotional suffering, and anonymity has left a lingering imprint, which some believe manifests as residual energy. This energy is thought to be responsible for the shadowy figures, cold spots, and unexplained noises that continue to plague visitors. For those who explore the cemetery, the experience is often described as both sobering and chilling, a direct connection to the lives and deaths of individuals largely forgotten by history. Despite the passage of decades, Columbus State Hospital Cemetery remains a site of fascination for paranormal enthusiasts, historians, and urban explorers. Its stark, unadorned graves, quiet paths, and overgrown trees create an atmosphere that is simultaneously haunting and humbling. Visitors leave with stories of apparitions, whispers, and sudden chills. Convinced that the cemetery is more than a final resting place, it is a site where the past continues to assert its presence. Columbus State Hospital Cemetery serves as a powerful reminder of the lives lived and lost within the walls of the hospital. Its unmarked stones and empty pathways echo with the memories of suffering, care, and unresolved existence. Shadowy figures, disembodied voices, and sudden drops in temperature are signs that the spirits of the hospital's former patients may still linger, silently roaming among the tombstones, their stories etched into the land itself. The cemetery stands as a chilling testament to Ohio's history of mental health care, a place where the echoes of the past refuse to fade. Sandusky State Hospital Cemetery, located adjacent to the former hospital grounds, is a place where history and mystery intertwine. Established in the late 1800s, the cemetery became the final resting place for hundreds of patients who once lived within the walls of Sandusky State Hospital. Like many institutional burial grounds of the era, it was never intended to be a place of grandeur or commemoration. Instead, it reflected the anonymity and neglect that often characterized mental health care during that time. Rows of plain markers dot the grounds, many of them bearing only numbers instead of names, a silent testament to lives forgotten and stories left untold. Over the years, the cemetery has acquired a reputation not only for its somber history, but also for its association with the paranormal. The atmosphere of Sandusky State Hospital Cemetery is unlike that of traditional burial grounds. While other cemeteries often feel peaceful, with ornate headstones and carefully tended landscapes, this site has an air of abandonment and sorrow. Weathered stones tilt unevenly in the earth, grass grows long and wild, and trees loom overhead, their branches casting long shadows across the graves. The simplicity of the markers, many of which conceal the identity of those beneath them, contributes to a feeling of unease among visitors. It is said that the anonymity of the burials, combined with the often tragic circumstances of the patients' lives, has left a spiritual imprint on the land. Visitors frequently describe a heavy, almost suffocating silence upon entering the cemetery. This stillness is not the kind that brings comfort, but rather one that stirs anxiety and raises goosebumps. People who walk the grounds often report the sensation of being watched, as though unseen eyes follow their every step. Some have spoken of sudden chills that descend without explanation, even on warm summer days. These experiences have led many to believe that the spirits of former patients remain tied to the cemetery, restless and unwilling to fade into obscurity. One of the most commonly reported phenomena is the sighting of shadowy figures among the tombstones. These apparitions are usually glimpsed at the edges of vision, flickering between markers before disappearing when directly observed. Some appear to move slowly, drifting across the cemetery, as though retracing steps from long ago. Others stand motionless, watching silently before vanishing into thin air. While skeptics attribute these sightings to tricks of the light or the power of suggestion, many visitors leave convinced that they have encountered something otherworldly. Auditory experiences are also frequent at Sandusky State Hospital Cemetery. Whispered voices have been reported drifting through the air, their words indistinct but urgent, as though conversations from another time still echo among the graves. Footsteps are another recurring phenomenon, steady and deliberate, as if someone unseen is walking nearby. Some visitors claim to have heard soft crying, a sound that stirs both sadness and fear, while others describe distant moans that carry across the grounds when no one else is present. Paranormal investigators who have brought recording equipment to the site have reported capturing faint, electronic voice phenomena, or EVPs, further fueling belief in the cemetery's haunting. Physical sensations add another layer to the chilling atmosphere. Sudden drops in temperature, often confined to small areas, are a common occurrence. Some visitors report feeling touches, gentle brushes against the skin, or the sensation of a hand resting on a shoulder when no one is there. Others speak of an oppressive weight in the air, as though the sadness and despair of those buried here linger tangibly, pressing down on the living. Many who enter the cemetery leave with an overwhelming sense of sorrow, as though the emotions of the past have seeped into the very soil. The cemetery's history deepens its eerie reputation. Patients interred here often died far from family, many abandoned by society or left behind in the care of the state. Their anonymity in death mirrored the isolation they experienced in life. In many cases, families could not afford, or chose not, to claim their loved ones' remains, leaving them to be buried in simple graves marked only by numbers. This lack of recognition has been cited by paranormal enthusiasts as a possible cause of the site's hauntings. The spirits, some believe, linger out of frustration, sorrow, or a desperate desire to be remembered. Explorers who have visited the site at night describe an even more intense atmosphere. The darkness cloaks the cemetery in shadows, and the slightest sound, rustling leaves, a snapping twig, or the distant call of an animal beg comes amplified. Many report that their flashlights flicker or batteries drain unexpectedly, phenomena often associated with paranormal activity. It is in these nighttime visits that the shadowy figures are most frequently reported, sometimes appearing to follow visitors as they make their way through the rows of graves. Despite its unsettling reputation, Sandusky State Hospital Cemetery holds historical importance. It stands as a reminder of the lives once lived within the hospital. Lives marked by hardship, stigma, and neglect. Each numbered stone, though anonymous, represents a person with a story, a life cut short and buried without ceremony. The haunting presence felt by visitors may be seen not only as evidence of restless spirits, but also as a symbol of the human need for recognition and remembrance. For those who visit, the experience often lingers long after leaving the grounds. The whispered voices, the fleeting shadows, and the heavy silence leave an indelible impression, reminding the living that the cemetery is more than just a burial site. It is a place where history refuses to remain silent, where the echoes of the past persist in the present, whether one believes in ghosts or not. The atmosphere of Sandusky State Hospital Cemetery cannot be denied, is a place steeped in sorrow, memory, and the unshakable feeling that those buried beneath its soil are not entirely at rest. Sandusky State Hospital Cemetery endures as both a historical landmark and a paranormal mystery. Its plain stones and unmarked graves serve as stark reminders of forgotten lives, while the reports of apparitions, whispers, and cold touches suggest that the spirits of those who rest there may still walk among the living. It is a place where history and the supernatural converge, leaving all who enter with a deep sense of unease and the haunting realization that some stories refuse to be forgotten. The Lima State Hospital Cemetery in Lima, Ohio, lies quietly adjacent to the grounds of the former Lima State Hospital for the criminally insane. To a passerby, it might appear to be nothing more than a modest patch of land, marked with rows of simple stones. Yet beneath the surface, both literally and figuratively, lies a history filled with sorrow, neglect, and an air of mystery that has given rise to countless stories of paranormal activity. For many, the cemetery serves as more than just a burial ground. It is a place where the past refuses to rest, and where the forgotten seem to make their presence known. The hospital itself, which opened in the early 1900s, was designed to house Ohio's most dangerous and mentally ill patients. Over the years, the institution became notorious for its harsh conditions, overcrowding, and controversial treatments. Many of its residents never left the grounds, living and dying within its imposing walls. For those who passed away without family to claim their remains, or for those whose identities were deemed unimportant, the cemetery became their final resting place. Instead of ornate headstones or carefully inscribed markers, most were buried under small, numbered stones. Some did not even receive that level of recognition, their graves remaining unmarked and their identities forever lost. The atmosphere of the Lima State Hospital Cemetery is heavy, almost oppressive. Visitors often describe a deep sense of sadness upon entering the grounds, as though the grief of generations still lingers in the soil. The anonymity of the burials only deepens this feeling. To stand among rows of stones, marked with nothing but numbers, is to be reminded of how easily people can be forgotten, reduced to statistics, rather than remembered as individuals. This aura of neglect and abandonment, combined with the tragic histories of those interred, seems to fuel the reports of ghostly encounters that have surrounded the cemetery for decades. One of the most commonly shared experiences is the overwhelming sense of being watched. Visitors often report that while walking through the cemetery, they feel unseen eyes following their every move. Some describe the sensation as protective, while others characterize it as deeply unsettling, as though the spirits resent intrusion into their resting place. On more than one occasion, visitors claim to have heard whispers drifting through the air, faint but persistent, impossible to trace to any living source. These voices are usually indecipherable, though some insist they have caught fragments of pleading or mournful words. Sightings of shadowy figures among the tombstones are also a frequent occurrence. These apparitions often appear at the edge of one's vision, dark forms, moving between the rows of markers, only to vanish when directly observed. Some witnesses have reported seeing full-bodied figures dressed in outdated clothing, silently wandering the grounds before disappearing into the night. Paranormal investigators who have conducted studies at the cemetery claim to have captured anomalies on camera, strange lights, unexplained mists, and figures that appear only in photographs, but not to the naked eye. Cold spots are another recurring phenomenon. Even on warm summer evenings, visitors sometimes encounter sudden, localized drops in temperature, as though they have stepped into an unseen presence. These cold patches are often accompanied by an eerie stillness, with even the sounds of nature, the rustling leaves, chirping insects, or calling birds falling silent. Many interpret this as a sign of spirits manifesting, the environment itself shifting in response to their presence. Some of the most chilling reports involve direct physical sensations. A number of visitors have described feeling touches when no one else is near, a hand brushing against their arm, a tug on their clothing, or the sensation of a hand resting on their shoulder. In some cases, these touches feel almost comforting, as if the spirits are reaching out for acknowledgement. In others, they are described as cold and invasive, leaving behind fear and unease. Nighttime visits to the cemetery often intensify these experiences. Explorers who have braved the grounds after dark speak of lights flickering in the distance, sometimes resembling lanterns moving slowly among the graves. Others report seeing glowing orbs that hover above the ground before fading away. The darkness seems to magnify the sense of presence, and many leave with an unshakable feeling that they were not alone. Paranormal groups who have investigated at night frequently capture electronic voice phenomenon explained, recordings of voices that were not heard at the time. Some of these voices appear to call out names, while others repeat the word help over and over. The cemetery's reputation as a haunted site is inextricably linked to the history of the hospital it served. The men and women buried their lived lives marked by suffering and isolation. Confined to an institution where mental illness was poorly understood and often treated with cruelty. For many, death brought no dignity, only burial in a grave with a number instead of a name. This lack of recognition, many believe, is why their spirits linger. They remain restless, yearning to be remembered, their stories demanding to be told even in death. Despite its unsettling aura, some visitors approach the cemetery with reverence rather than fear. For them, walking among the numbered stones is not only a brush with the paranormal, but also a way to pay respects to those who were denied dignity in life and death. They leave flowers at the graves, whisper prayers, or simply pause in silence, offering acknowledgement to those long forgotten. These gestures, though small, seem to carry meaning, as if the spirits themselves are calmed by the recognition. The Lima State Hospital Cemetery stands as a chilling reminder of a time when mental illness was stigmatized and those who suffered from it were hidden away from society. Each stone, marked or unmarked, represents a life lived, a story untold, and a memory erased. Yet through the whispers, the shadows, and the inexplicable phenomena. Those lives continue to echo across time. The cemetery may be a place of sorrow, but it is also a place where history and the supernatural intersect, reminding the living that the past is never truly silent. For those who visit, the experience is rarely forgotten. The Lima State Hospital Cemetery is not just a burial ground. It is a place where the forgotten speak, where silence holds voices, and where shadows remind us that the dead may still walk among us. The Dayton Mental Health Institute, once a beacon of progress in mental health treatment when it first opened in the late 19th century, now stands as a looming relic of the past. Its sprawling brick structures, arched windows, and towering gables were designed to embody the ideals of the Kirkbride Plan, a vision that emphasized light, space, and the hope of rehabilitation. For a time, the facility was considered state-of-the-art, housing hundreds of patients with the promise of care, treatment, and dignity. Yet as decades passed, the optimism that once defined its purpose eroded, giving way to overcrowding, neglect, and questionable practices. Patients often lived out their days behind its locked doors, their stories fading into obscurity, until whispers of the supernatural brought them back into the light. The Institute's history is steeped in tragedy. Overcrowding quickly became a serious issue, with the number of residents far outstripping the facility's intended capacity. Hallways became lined with beds, privacy was non-existent, and many patients were subjected to harsh treatments that were considered advanced for their time, but are now viewed as barbaric. Electroshock therapy, ice water submersion, and experimental drug regimens were common practices, often administered not to heal but to manage and control. The mortality rate was high, and many patients were buried in nearby cemeteries with little more than a number to mark their existence. This tragic legacy has left an imprint on the very walls of the Dayton Mental Health Institute, and many believe it is the suffering of these lost souls that lingers still. Today, the abandoned wings of the Institute are a magnet for explorers, thrill-seekers, and paranormal investigators. The atmosphere inside is heavy, with a chill that persists regardless of the season. Peeling paint curls from the walls like parchment. Floors creak beneath hesitant footsteps, and broken furniture lies scattered in rooms that once served as dormitories and wards. The silence is profound, yet it is often broken by something unexplainable, echoes of anguished cries reverberating through the empty halls. Investigators have reported capturing these sounds on their recording equipment. Voices that seem to wail from somewhere deep within the building, begging for relief or release. Doors that should remain still have been known to slam with force, startling those nearby. At times, these heavy doors open and close repeatedly, as if unseen hands are testing the boundaries between their world and ours. Some explorers have described the unnerving experience of watching a door slowly creak open, only to find the room beyond empty. These events often coincide with sudden drops in temperature, icy drafts that snake through the corridors without any explanation. Paranormal groups that have studied the building report spikes in electromagnetic fields during these occurrences. Evidence, they believe, points to ghostly activity. Perhaps the most unnerving experiences come from the shadows that move just beyond the beam of a flashlight. Visitors often describe catching fleeting glimpses of figures in the corners of their vision, humanoid shapes that dart across hallways or linger in doorways before vanishing. Some claim these shadows are accompanied by a sense of overwhelming dread, as though the figures are not merely wandering but watching, their intentions unclear. On rare occasions, witnesses have described full apparitions, a woman in a tattered hospital gown wandering aimlessly, or a man with hollow eyes standing silently at the end of a corridor, dissolving into nothingness when approached. One of the most chilling aspects of exploring the Dayton Mental Health Institute is the constant sensation of being watched. Almost everyone who steps inside remarks upon it. Whether walking alone or in groups, visitors feel an oppressive presence that seems to follow them from room to room. Some describe it as dozens of unseen eyes tracking their movements. A reminder that the building once housed hundreds of people whose lives ended within its walls. This ever-present feeling of surveillance has driven many to cut their visits short, leaving shaken and convinced they were not alone. Personal accounts from explorers add to the building's haunted reputation. One group of students who entered the abandoned complex late at night reported hearing the distinct sound of footsteps following them down a corridor, though they saw no one when they turned. Another visitor recounted feeling a sudden, sharp tug at his backpack, as if someone had grabbed hold of it. Startled, he spun around to find himself standing in an empty hallway. Paranormal investigators have recorded disembodied voices, some of which seem to respond directly to questions. Words like help, stay, and even names have been heard, reinforcing the belief that the spirits within are still trying to communicate. The basement of the Institute is particularly notorious. Dark, damp, and claustrophobic, it once housed storage rooms and possibly isolation cells. Many who entered the basement described feelings of panic, shortness of breath, or a sense of overwhelming despair. Equipment failures are common, their batteries drain inexplicably, cameras malfunction, and audio recorders pick up static or strange, low growls. Some investigators refuse to spend extended time in the basement, claiming that the oppressive energy is simply too much to endure. Yet for all the fear it inspires, the Dayton Mental Health Institute also carries with it a sense of sorrow. The energy within the abandoned structure is not always aggressive. Many believe it is simply the residual pain of the countless individuals who once lived and died there. These spirits, if they remain, are trapped in the echoes of their suffering, unable to move on. For some visitors, the experience is less terrifying than it is heartbreaking, the reminder of the human cost of neglect and misunderstanding in the history of mental health care. The Dayton Mental Health Institute remains one of Ohio's most infamous haunted locations. A place where history and the supernatural intertwine. Its long corridors, broken wards, and shadowed rooms are more than just remnants of the past. They are stages where the echoes of human suffering continue to play out. Those who dare to enter are often left with more questions than answers, carrying with them the memory of whispers in the dark, footsteps that should not be, and the unshakable sense that someone or something was there with them. Whether the spirits of the Institute are restless souls seeking acknowledgement or simply imprints of a tragic history, one truth remains clear. The building may be abandoned, but it is far from empty. Green Lawn Asylum in Columbus is one of those places that has slipped quietly into the shadows of Ohio's history. Unlike its more infamous counterparts, it was never widely known outside the local community. It stood in the shadow of the sprawling Green Lawn Cemetery, a grim reminder of mortality looming just beyond its walls. For decades, the asylum operated as a treatment facility for the mentally ill, housing hundreds of patients at its peak. Its imposing brick facade, barred windows, and long corridors bore witness to lives marked by hardship, neglect, and a desperate search for healing in an era when mental illness was poorly understood. When it first opened, Green Lawn Asylum carried with it the optimism of the age. Advocates believed it would offer patients a chance at rest, recovery, and dignity. But as with so many institutions of its kind, reality painted a darker picture. Overcrowding set in quickly, and treatments soon shifted from therapeutic ideals to controlling behaviors at any cost. Patients endured isolation, experimental therapies, and sometimes outright abuse. The weight of so much suffering seems to have left a permanent mark on the asylum, and even long after its closure, people say the energy inside is impossible to ignore. Paranormal activity at Green Lawn Asylum is varied and deeply unsettling. One of the most common reports is the appearance of strange lights flickering in empty rooms. Explorers who wander the abandoned hallways often describe seeing faint glows dancing just out of reach, sometimes like lanterns being carried by unseen hands. Others have spotted bright flashes of light erupting from windows in buildings that have long been disconnected from electricity. Attempts to investigate often lead to dead ends. By the time explorers reach the room, it is silent, still, and completely dark. Another recurring phenomenon is the unmistakable sound of chains dragging across the floors. Many visitors recount standing in silence when the metallic scrape begins, echoing down the hallways with a slow, deliberate rhythm. The sound seems to move, as if being pulled by someone unseen, turning corners and fading only to reappear again moments later. Paranormal investigators, who have brought recording equipment, claim to have captured these noises clearly, as if the past refuses to stay buried. Some believe the sound is tied to patients who were once restrained, their suffering etched into the very floors of the asylum. Disembodied voices are also a hallmark of Green Lawn's haunting reputation. These voices are not random whispers or indistinct murmurs. They often call out names. Explorers describe the chilling experience of hearing their own names spoken from the shadows, or hearing names they do not recognize echoing down corridors. On one occasion, a group of investigators reported hearing a woman's voice call out Thomas repeatedly, though no one by that name was present. The sound was clear, urgent, and unmistakably human, yet no physical source could be found. This particular phenomenon has led some to believe that the spirits of patients still wander the halls, searching for loved ones, doctors, or perhaps simply someone to acknowledge their presence. Physical encounters add another layer of terror to the asylum's legend. Many visitors report the sensation of invisible hands brushing against them in the darkened hallways. Sometimes it is a light touch on the shoulder or arm, almost gentle, while other times it feels like a firm grip, startling and unrelenting. One explorer recounted the terrifying moment when he felt fingers lace around his wrist and tug hard enough to spin him around, only to find himself standing alone in a corridor of peeling paint and silence. These encounters leave little doubt for those who experience them, that something or someone still resides within the asylum's walls. The atmosphere of Green Lawn Asylum is often described as suffocating, heavy with an energy that presses down on everyone who steps inside. Even before any paranormal activity occurs, visitors claim the building itself feels alive, as though it is watching and waiting. Breathing feels harder in certain rooms, and time seems to stretch unnaturally in the darker corners of the asylum. Paranormal investigators say that the oppressive environment is as much a part of the haunting as the voices or apparitions. Many believe it is the accumulation of decades of suffering, a psychic imprint left behind by those who lived and died within its walls. Despite its lesser-known status, Green Lawn has drawn the attention of dedicated paranormal groups and curious thrill-seekers. Some have captured shadow figures moving across hallways on video, while others swear they've seen full-bodied apparitions only to watch them vanish in an instant. A few claim to have communicated directly with the spirits through electronic voice phenomena, recording responses that seem intelligent and deliberate. Words like help, stay, and listen have been heard, adding to the belief that many of the spirits are still desperate to be heard after so many years of silence. One of the eeriest aspects of the asylum's haunting is its proximity to Green Lawn Cemetery. Some speculate that the cemetery's energy seeps into the asylum, fueling the activity within. Others believe it is the reverse, that the unrest inside the asylum spills over into the burial grounds, where countless nameless graves already hold tragic stories of their own. This connection between the living, the dead, and the restless has made Green Lawn Asylum a place of deep unease, even for those who never step inside its crumbling halls. As the years pass, the asylum continues to decay, its walls crumbling and its windows dark, yet the stories never fade. Locals speak of eerie lights shining from the broken windows at night, or the sound of voices drifting into the air when the wind is still. For many, Green Lawn Asylum has become more than just an abandoned building. It is a reminder of a time when suffering was hidden behind closed doors, and of how pain can linger long after the living are gone. To this day, the asylum remains one of Columbus's most haunted locations. Those who enter often leave convinced they have touched the past in a way they cannot explain, carrying with them the memory of chains dragging across empty floors, whispers calling names through the darkness, and the cold, invisible touch of hands that should not exist. Green Lawn Asylum may no longer house patients, but it has never truly been empty. Its shadows hold secrets, and its halls echo with the voices of the forgotten, forever keeping it on Ohio's list of the most haunted places. These haunted asylums are more than abandoned buildings. They are monuments to the forgotten, the lost, and the restless. Each hallway, each crumbling wall, and each silent room holds echoes of lives once lived and struggles once endured. Whether you are a thrill seeker, a paranormal enthusiast, or simply a curious soul, these locations remind us that the past never truly disappears. Spirits linger, stories endure, and the whispers of Ohio's haunted asylums continue to reach out, daring us to listen. Thank you for joining us on this eerie journey through Ohio's most haunted asylums. Remember, the spirits may be unseen, but they are always near, waiting, watching, and reminding us that some doors should never be closed without respect.